Hello and welcome to the Week 15 Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover Week 15 preview. Is Week 15 here already? As I've said 3 times already in this intro, and all buys are done. Thanksgiving's been and gone. Football is truly here. Business end of the season. Got Thursday night football tonight, which we previewed on Monday. Paul, how are you doing? Finding the mute button first?
Yeah, find the mute button first. Sorry, I was trying to avoid my squeaky chair being on your intro, Byron. Yeah, all good. Just back from my Christmas curry club, which was a tad disappointing, as we have discussed off air. But the thing to lift me up is we're going to talk about Week 15 in the NFL, so that's going to make me feel better. It feels like it's a strange week. It feels like a lot's done in the NFL. I think like the playoff, this is a key week, because I feel like we could get to next week and any kind of playoff situation is done. Like the wild card, the chase for the wild card is done. Divisions are set. I think maybe one division would be in question. So I feel like this is a week that could bring everything back into being chaotic, which is what we want, or it could kind of set everything for the last 3 weeks and make it a bit mundane. So we want the chaos.
Absolutely, and I think the NFL have kind of done a spin-a-rooney on us this week. A real switch up where the early games were a bit duddy, but that second half of Sunday through Sunday night is a bonanza of football. I don't know how they have to spread it out a bit better, but
how do you have 3 games for so long and then make us have Bills, Lions, Eagles, Steelers at the same time,
and then have Falcons, Raiders on Monday Night Football?
Fuck the schedule makers.
Yeah. By the time people listen to this, we might know if the 49ers are in the division race. How are you doing, Joe? Looking forward to the week. Obviously, your boys play tonight, so.
Yeah. Obviously, a win will make you a lot better, and Sunday's usually a lot more enjoyable when you've got the early win and you can relax and you're still in the hunt. And I'll be cheering some certain teams on, which we'll discuss to help them along. But no, I'm excited. I think there's some big games, with each team having 4 games left. It's it's coming down to crunch time. And and what Paul was saying, I feel like the AFCs could be done. I think there's like 6 teams already, a 92% chance of making the playoffs. But yeah, the NFC could be interesting with a few results here and there. So exciting one, and like you said, plenty of fun games all around.
Absolutely. So, like we said, bumper second half of Sunday. But as always, we do start with the early Sky game on Sunday, which for us is Dolphins-Texans. Again, probably wouldn't be the bumper game in the second window, but a bit of a dud slate early. So Dolphins-Texans is an intriguing game. Texans can seal the division if they win and the Colts lose. Dolphins need a win to have that tiny sliver of a chance of making the playoffs still be in play. What is their percentage at right now? Let me have a quick look, see while we're talking. If they win 32%, if they lose 6%, they're currently 16%. So, yeah, must win for the Dolphins. And Texans are pretty much in the playoffs, barring a collapse. If they win, they're 99% in. So, yeah. I've gone with, for my bet of the day here, Nico Collins and Tyreek Hill to go over 100 receiving yards. Both teams are pretty... The Texans give up fantasy points and yardage to wide receivers a rate way more than I anticipated. In the last 6 weeks, they've given up 9 top 24 wide receiver games in fantasy football. And Tyreek Hill's getting back to it. He's had the second worst year of his career, yards per game. His worst since his rookie season. But I think he's on a roll now. He got 83. 2 weeks ago, he got 115. Last week, Jalen Waddle's nursing a hamstring injury, limited in practice the last 2 days. I think Tyreek can go off here. Tua, his timing is almost perfect. I know he had a slow first half against Green Bay a couple of weeks ago on Thanksgiving, but otherwise, I think Tua, since he came back, has been one of the better quarterbacks in the league, certainly top 10. Nico Collins is averaging over 100 yards a game. I don't see the Dolphins slowing him down here. He is, he made our All-Pro first team this week. And yeah, I just don't see him slowing down. So that's my bet of the game. That's at plus 675. I thought that was a great value. Paul, what's your bet of the game here?
Yeah, I think this one's just going to be close. The way, obviously, Miami need it. Like the Miami, if they've got a chance, a prayer. They have to win out. I think at this point they've got to get to 10-7. I think they can, but obviously this is probably the toughest game they've got left. Is that right? They've got to play the Jets again, and I feel like they've got a relatively easy other three. They have to have this one,
including the Niners there.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe. Yeah, but maybe that's kind of unfair. But
they do go to the Browns and the Jets in weather. Their last two on the road.
So that's what we know about the Dolphins in cold weather. But they've got to win out and get to 10-7. And just something tells me that I don't like if they lose here, they're done.
Yep.
And then you've only got it's only I guess then the Colts that have got a chance of getting a wild card place outside the teams that are already there with 3 weeks to go. That just feels like that's not the way the NFL works. Like, surely these teams are going to hang around and just push it to another couple of weeks. So I think the Texans are sitting okay for the division perspective, so they can afford a loss here. Obviously, they're not trying to lose, but, they can afford another loss here. Yeah. I just think Miami have been getting better. And I know kind of the Jets pushed them all the way last week, but offensively, the Dolphins have been getting a lot better. I feel with the +3 here, I do like the Dolphins, and I picked them on our ATS, but I like the under here. A close game that Miami can cover and potentially win. Therefore, I like under 47. The Texans' offense hasn't been flying, has it? I don't think they're going to score a lot, and Miami don't necessarily need to score a lot and to keep this close and make it a game.
Yeah, I love it. I think I forgot to actually mention, the spread is 3 points, over under 47. Joe, you have one of my favourites as your bet of the day for this game. I'll always back this as well, but you've actually picked it as your bet of the game.
Yeah, I've got a chance to get 50+ receiving yards. It's just what Tua's good at right now. I think the offense as a whole is not quite clicking, but what he's good at is good as the timing, throwing quickly. And I think they'll have to do that against this Texas defense, who, like you mentioned, they have given up a lot, but what they do is pressure a quarterback and get there quicker. I think they have one of the QB face him as one of the shortest times to throw, but it's Tua who's one of the quickest to throw. So I don't think it'll affect him that much. And if he gets the pressure, then Achan's just there. Just a quick short pass, and I think they're going to do a lot of a lot of throws. But like you mentioned with Hill, I think they're going to throw him short a lot and see if he can burst upfield, because it's just they've been a bit. They're just not, everything's not clicked. It's like, even like last week when they're playing the Jets team, where we all expected them to win easily and they just struggled. And it was just a few big plays near the end. They still didn't get it going. But I think they're going to try and work on Achan a lot more. And it feels like he is the number one running back now for the last 10 weeks. Like, we're coming into this year, we were like, what are they going to do with Mostert? What are they going to do with Jalen Wright? What are they going to do with the other running back I'm blanking on, who was former 49ers?
Mostert?
No, the other one.
Breeder?
Oh, sorry.
Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson, there you go. Yeah, they take all the running backs from the 49ers. It feels like Achan's established himself now, and I think they'll have to throw it to move this ball. And I think it's going to be an exciting game, just because both defenses have not been as sound as I expected them. Even like I said, like the Dolphins, they gave Rodgers his first 300 yards game, and when you're the first team to do that in week 15, it doesn't say a lot about that defense. So we'll see how they play. And one big news, I don't know if we haven't touched on it, is Teron Armstead went out last week, and he sounds like he's not sure. It could be a major injury. I don't think it's been announced if he's playing or not, but I think that's huge. I think you mentioned it when you voted him in the All-Pro, that the big difference, him in and out for this Dolphins team. So that could influence it. But like I said, Tua throws it so quickly that it might not affect them as much as other teams when they lose their starting left tackle.
Yeah, it is a slight worry, but I think if anything, it benefits your bet more than certainly mine. If Tyreek Hill getting to 100, Achan getting to 50 plus 220, he's averaging 30. I just had it up. Where is it? 36.5 yards per game. I think 50 is pretty easy for him to expect to get to here. And I do have a little a little trivia question for us for this one as well. And this one is multifaceted. So the Miami Dolphins against Houston Texans on the road are 0-5. Never won against Texans on the road. However, they have won in Houston. They have beaten the Houston Oilers there. Most recently, November 17, 1996. So firstly, what was the US #1 movie? If you want to try and guess a UK one, feel free. But I don't think you'll get it, so I'm going to go with US.
US #1 movie in November 19.
I'm going to guess The Mask.
It was not The Mask.
That feels like 94, The Mask.
Actually, I don't have neither or anything like that. I just have the actual answer, so I can't tell you if it's close.
November 1996. I feel like it might be too... Jingle All the Way. Is it a Christmas film? I feel like it might be too early.
It's not a Christmas film. It's not Jingle All the Way. It was Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Yeah, the UK one, which I'm pretty sure no one was going to get, was the First Wives Club.
And what a film!
Yeah, what a film. Sure, I've never seen it. And the one I use for the single of the day, #1, I have the UK, I have US, Australia, Germany, and Canada. And do you know what? All 5 were bangers. So
5 different ones.
All 5 different, and all 5 bangers in their own way. So you give me any of them, and I'll give you a shout as a win here. So what was #1 on that day? Anywhere, essentially.
November 96. I feel this could be a Spice Girls one.
In Australia, the Spice Girls are #1.
I was going to say Spice Girls as well.
November.
I'm going to shout.
Is that too early? Is that past? It's not wannabe, is it?
It is wannabe.
Nice.
Yeah. We've got 1 out of 5 down. Feel free to keep guessing. We've got a few more countries to take off. I'll just settle for you if you want.
And that was
Oasis. Is Oasis one of them?
Oasis is not, no. Any more?
Spice Girls Wannabe was Australia, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, no more Spice Girls. It's all different artists as well.
96. Don't know.
Alrighty. So in the UK, it was Breathe by The Prodigy.
Oh, nice.
In the US, it was No Diggity by Blackstreet featuring Dr. Dre. In Germany, it was Quit Playing Games with My Heart by the Backstreet Boys. And in Canada, it was If It Makes You Happy by Sheryl Crow. What a list.
Well, that is a great list, yeah.
And a final one. I'm not even going to ask you the trivia here because you're not going to get it. On that day, when the Miami Dolphins went into Houston and beat the Oilers, Dan Marino versus Chris Chandler, the Dolphins' lead in Russia had a Space Jam connection in terms of basketball. His name was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. What are the odds? A 3rd-round pick in 95. Led the NFL in rushing touchdowns in 97. I've never heard of him. I had to click and make sure that he somehow didn't get a run out in the NFL. But yeah, completely different guy. Played 7 years or 6 years in the NFL.
Outstanding stuff. Some great research there about him.
Yeah, I mean, had to come hard this week hosting, obviously. And yeah, I don't know if we've got anything else to add on Dolphins Texans after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gets a shout out. So we're going to move on to what I think might be game of the regular season. Never mind game of the week, game of Sunday. I mean, they've ruined us by putting this alongside other classics in the late slate on Sky Sports. But it is the Buffalo Bills, 2.5-point underdogs, heading into Detroit, the Lions. What a game. Who wants to start off on this one?
Yeah, everything tells me here to hammer the Bills plus 2.5. It really does. I've not yet. And I suspect the number might hold, so I'm going to have a bit more opportunity to think about it. Everything tells me that the Bills bounce back and win and beat the Lions. The Lions aren't going to go 16-1 or 15-2 realistically, are they? And I just don't think so. They're going to drop a couple of games down the stretch. This feels like one of those for sure. Bills bouncing back last week from a loss against the Rams in a shootout. I just feel like the Bills are going to win this, and the Lions, I say, can't carry on winning. What is it, 10 in a row the Lions have won?
In my head, it's 11 in a row.
Is it 11 in a row? Yeah, it is 11 in a row. Like, it just feels like the Lions aren't just going to carry on winning. Josh Allen off the back of an incredible performance last week. I've taken Josh Allen to rushing or receiving touchdowns, I guess it covers.
Never really know with Josh Allen.
Yeah, because of what happened earlier in the season. But yeah, plus 800. He's the guy in the inside the 5. Like, I know obviously James Cook is great, but it's going to be Josh Allen, isn't it? Like,
in a game this, I think it's Josh Allen.
Yeah, it was 3 rushing touchdowns last week. So I'm taking 2+ at plus 800. But just something there's no science behind this. I know numbers. It's just a gut feel. I feel the Bills are going to bounce back and win this week.
Fair enough. Joe, how are you feeling?
I think I'm actually leaning the Lions. I can't remember what I went on the... I leaned on the Lions. I just think the Lions are going to continue. I think one of the big thing is that Lions are getting some of the defensive pieces back, and I think that's huge, especially up the middle. It looks like McNeil's coming back. DJ Reader's playing. Onwunzurike is coming back. So that's like 3 of the defensive, 2 of the tackles and 1 defensive end. And that's why they've been struggling the last few weeks is the injuries on the line. So again, them big boys up, especially McNeil, which I know Paul voted as one of his picks in the defensive tackle. So I think that's huge. I think it's going to be a high scoring game being indoors in Detroit. And I think it's going to, I'm looking forward to I hope there should be points all around. I know it's a high over under, and that's probably the only reason I'll probably stay away from that, just because when it's normally it's 54.5 at the minute, and when it's usually that high,
it's such a big number.
Yeah, but it's so tempting because then when we'll be sat here when it was like 35-30, it was like, oh, obviously it was always going to be that way. So my bet, I've actually got Shakir to go over 90+ receiving yards at plus 375. I was going to go 100, but then I think that was around plus 500, but just the 90, just a little bit less with Cooper coming more into it, just with still being good odds. I think there's going to be, like I said, I think there's going to be lots of points, lots of throwing the ball from both quarterbacks. And we'll see how it goes. You know, this could be a Super Bowl warm-up, to be honest. I think
this is teams, the popular one in it. We would love this game in February.
100%. Just for the fans and everything what's gone on. And the fact these 2 teams are the highest ranked in our power rankings for their conference, Lions being number 1, Bills being number 3. So so for us, they're probably our favourites to get there. So super exciting. And I'm just curious how the Bills defense rebounds after being disappointing last week. If it happens again, then we can't just go, well, it's just what can you take from this game? If the team drops another 40 points on them, then it's something to be worried about, especially how this Lions defense runs, and then having that true number 1, which I mentioned last week. Can this Bills defense stand up to, when they're playing against a team who have got at least a true number 1 and a really good number 2, which the Lions do have? So, can't wait for this one. Can't wait.
Just a shout out on your bet, Byron. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2 passing touchdowns at plus 600.
I'll need to check the phrase. It's 2 receiving touchdowns.
2 receiving touchdowns. 2 touchdowns, yeah.
I just put 2+ touchdowns. I've been.
I feel like we should be getting more than 6 than plus 600.
Yeah, either a digit missing or an extra word. It should either be 60-1 or it should just be 2 touchdowns. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
But I wasn't going to call you out, Joe. I love your work and appreciate it.
Just a shout though, like this being a potential Super Bowl matchup. Just imagine these 2 sets of fans in New Orleans for a Super Bowl. Bills Mafia and the Lions fans at a Super Bowl in New Orleans. Like, it would be absolutely nuts.
I almost think it might be the last NFL game if that happens.
Yeah.
Like, it just gets shut down after that. Hopefully with Detroit lifting the Super Bowl. No offense to Buffalo, but I have a real soft spot for this team. Obviously, I've talked about them constantly every week. I've had them as my Super Bowl favorite since the last Super Bowl happened, basically.
And we can't forget as well that the Lions have had like a mini bye. Obviously, they played Thanksgiving, and it was a week to the Thursday night, and then they've had longer. And the Bills had to travel all the way to the West Coast, and then I'm guessing they traveled back and then to Michigan. So they've had a longer journey and less rest, which certainly helps teams.
Yeah, and we're getting on not exactly a month, but this is the Lions' 3rd home game in a row as well. So they haven't travelled anywhere since I went to all the way to Indianapolis, which isn't exactly the West Coast. But like Paul says, I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2 touchdowns, probably receiving, maybe rushing, not throwing, crucially, at plus 600. I just think with how Buffalo struggled against Puka Nacua, especially last week, Amon-Ra might just eat and eat and eat this week. I hope so. I love Amon-Ra. But I also think, again, Ben Johnson, I think their offense versus the Bills' defense is probably the greatest mismatch in this game. And it's not a huge one. It's not. We'll get to the Ravens when we get to the ATS, etc. It's not the Ravens versus the Giants defense. It's not that by any means. But I think the Lions offense versus the Bills defense is a mismatch. And Ben Johnson is once again cementing himself as, if not the best OC in football, I can't think of one I'd take over him, I must say. That line is dominated our All-Pro selections for a very good reason. Jahmyr Gibbs, again, unanimously our third best running back in football. David Montgomery is a hell of a 2 to that 1. Sam Laporte has been getting more involved as the season's gone along. Jameson Williams is a game breaker with that speed. And Amon-Ra is just ever reliable. I have taken the Lions against the spread. I don't know if I'll pick against the Lions the rest of the season, truthfully, because my heart is with them. However, the Lions have lost the last 2 against the spread at home, against Green Bay last week and against the Bears the week before. The Bills have the ability to keep it close. Definitely, they're an elite team. I've taken the Lions, but I doubt I'll be betting it. I think I'm just going to kick back and enjoy this incredible Sunday second half into Sunday Night Football I don't think I'll be putting my mortgage on the Lions covering as much as I hope they do.
I'd have loved another point here to take the Bills. Like if the Bills were plus 3.5, I'd have loved that. Like I feel like it is going to be close, and I'd have just loved being sat on a plus 3.5 here with the Bills. But yeah, I'm not made my mind up yet, but I'm definitely. I think the Bills can absolutely win this game outright.
Yeah, and I think crucially as well, Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman expected back for this game, so just extra layers, extra weapons for Josh Allen. Because, I mean, he gets it done with Khalil Shakir and not at his best, Amari Cooper. But, I mean, the more you give him, the more he'll do, obviously. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a great one. And George has put this stat in our chat here. Goff is 33-12-1 against spread last 4 years indoor. I mean, goodness gracious.
Fair.
Goff and Ben Johnson, that maybe should say. Although that might include his Rams days. So maybe that's been a little too harsh on Jared Goff. But yeah, so that's the Sky Games for the day, for this weekend, sorry. We will move on to a bumper Sunday Night Football as well. Green Bay Packers going to Seattle. Again, not much is up for grabs in the NFC generally. However, Seattle's is certainly one of them. Green Bay look like they're pretty well set as a wildcard team at this point. Obviously, they'll want to win out. But the NFC West is by any means determined. Obviously, we have the Thursday night football matchup tonight. Rams, 49ers. The Cardinals play the Patriots. A game we'll get to in our ATS or our draft. But, we expect Cardinals a 6-point favorite there. I don't want to say must win for Seattle, but it'd really, really help. Paul, you are going the Packers -2.5, though.
Yeah, Packers favourites on the road. I just fancy them to win this game by win this game by a field goal at least. Seattle have been good. Obviously, they've had a good run, and the defense has been getting better. But I just fancy the Packers to go into Seattle and win here, and win not comfortably, but win by at least a field goal, which I've taken a -2.5. I think it will be a close game, but yeah, I just like the way the Packers have been rolling. I thought they were real unlucky not to beat the Lions last week on Thursday Night Football. Mini bye helps going out west as well. I'm taking the Packers here.
That's the Packers' only loss on the road this season, right? So
yeah,
I think they're 4-1 otherwise. 4-1. We've got not otherwise. They beat the Bears, they beat the Jags, they beat the Rams, and they beat the Titans.
They lost in Brazil, didn't they?
I think that technically was a home game, though.
No, I'm pretty sure that was an Eagles home game, wasn't it?
It was.
No.
It's listed as versus Eagles.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to Eagles. But, I mean, it certainly wasn't a home game, I guess. We'll call it a neutral game. So
it was a road game. Yeah, it's definitely Packers at Eagles. Yeah, it was a road game.
All right, yeah. Well, ESPN don't have that displayed correctly, so never mind. They've only lost 2 road games last season. And both against teams that were above them in our power rankings, and the Seahawks aren't. So, yeah, I've taken Seattle because I have to. Again, If my heart isn't with the Packers, if my heart isn't with the Lions, it's with the Seahawks. And Seattle's home ground, I mean, it's not the Legion of Boom home field that it used to be, I don't think, by any means. But I think it is getting better this year as things are going better for the home team. Kind of stands to reason.
Funny how that works, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. My VPN's asking me to log in. That's annoying. My bet of the game here is Geno and Jordan Love to throw an interception each, plus 360. They are the third and fourth most interception-worthy. Not worthy, what's the word? They're throwing the third and fourth most interceptions in the league this year, and the Seahawks have had the 11th most interceptions. Green Bay have had the 8th most interceptions. I feel like it's a game where there's going to be a lot of throwing the ball. So, yeah, I've gone for them to both have an interception here at plus 360. And, Joe, you've gone for another Jordan Love angle.
Yeah, I've got Jordan Love 2+ passing TDs and 250 passing yards, 250 plus passing yards at plus 175. He just loves to throw a ball, doesn't he? And it feels like a lot of his touchdowns are down the field, either big plays by Watson or Reed when he's on my bench, and does nothing when he starts for me. So I thought doubling them up together was a nice little price just to get both, because I think this is going to be another fun game. I'm hoping for points in this one. I think it depends on how the Seahawks defense plays, because they've been playing a lot better lately. But then they have certain games where, they played the Jets and they should have lost that game realistically, and they managed to sneak it out. If you have that kind of game, you ain't beating this Packers team, because I think this Packers team is an all-round team. The defense, and I think vice versa, I think the Seahawks are going to be able to throw on this Packers team because they don't really pressure the quarterback as much. I know that it is been improving and they're starting to get some sacks, but they're near the bottom for the amount of pressure the defensive line is getting on a QB. So I do like your bet, obviously, with how the Packers defensive backs have been playing. Obviously, the 4-2 is McKinney, who made our pro team. He's been getting plenty of interceptions, and curious if with Alexander back, Jair plays if he marks JSN or if he has to go and get against Metcalf. I think that's what makes the Seattle teams really good. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. The Seahawks are 2-4 at home. They've not had a great home record this year, and I've lent the Packers as well on IATS. But I also think the Seahawks are going to be in it, and I've got Zach Charbonnet to have 2+ TDs at plus 4.75. It's still up in the air if Kenneth Walker's not going to play, but how Charbonnet played last weekend, I think he's going to get a lot more of the ball, and certainly through the air as well. So I think he can do some damage and get 2 touchdowns for this team. But I've lent the Packers just because that's more what I want. I don't want the Seahawks to win, so it feels wrong to put money on and go the Seahawks on the ATS when I'm going to be cheering on the exact opposite.
Yeah, the Seahawks were 5-1 on the road. So what does that leave them at? Is it? Yeah, whatever it is, it's
2-4.
Yeah, is it 2-4? Yeah, sorry. No, they've got 8 wins, haven't they? If they're 5-1 on the road,
Yeah, 8-5.
There must be 3-4 at home then.
Not great anyway.
Do you know math, Joe?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see the Cardinals on the recent one. Yes, you are correct, Paul. Hold
But either way, as I'm saying, not the home advantage it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. That was the point. It was so rare to go get a win in Seattle, and that doesn't feel the case now. But it does feel like they have turned a corner. It's taken a while for the defense to get going, and it feels like they are now, and it's become that strong unit they can rely on. And Geno is playing well, and JSN we've talked about. Over the last few weeks, he's breaking out and he's becoming the receiver we're all expecting him to be. Seattle are becoming a really strong team, and it is a big one. Like, if Seattle can win this one, then I think they're nailed on to win the division. But I just think the Packers are really, really good, and they'll go into Seattle and win.
I think it's big for the Packers. If the Packers lose this, then they're stranded on 9 wins. They've still got the Vikings to play. I know they've got the Saints, and they've got the Bears, but 10 wins might not be enough now with some of the other teams. If the Rams win tonight and it keeps getting closer, then if they win this, it feels more secure. And it certainly makes the NFC West wide up because the Seahawks have got the Vikings coming the week after. So it's a huge game for both teams. And And I'll shout out an interesting fact. Matt LaFleur, in December, he dominates. He's 18-3 straight up in December.
Wow.
So fingers crossed he continues that. He's also 28, 17-1 against teams above 500 straight up. ATS, so 62%, which is the third highest for any coach. The only issue is 0-3-1 this season against any good team. So,
and I think I don't have any numbers here, unlike Joe, who's killing it. I'm much more narratively here. Mike McDonald's against the Shanahan tree coach. We talked about it when he was hired. We've talked about it in season. That defense is getting better for Seattle. Mike McDonald does have the habit of shutting down Shanahan and his disciples. LaFleur is a Shanahan disciple. Just another interesting wrinkle to what I think is a really, really fun Sunday night football game. Are we any more?
No, all good.
Cool. Well, moving on to, and like I said, Sunday was a real highlight day from Sunday, 3 o'clock onwards, my time, 9 o'clock in the UK. And then we get to Monday night football. Bears at Vikings, not too bad, to be fair. Division game, ran them close recently, went to overtime. Paul, you've taken the over-under bet on this one. Where have you gone?
Yeah, so I've gone under on this one. So I think these are two. I took the under on them in the first meeting because they are 2 under teams. So Minnesota are 5-8. 8-5 under. And the Bears are also 8-5 unders hitting so far this season. I took the under when they first met, but ended up bleeding over. We talked about it before. The movement of firing Matt Eberflus, absolutely. Moving this guy, they moved to offensive coordinator because they sat the offensive coordinator. Getting a little bit of something out of Caleb, then moving that guy away from Caleb to being head coach. I feel it's unfair.
So Chicago.
Yeah, I know it was one game against the Niners, but they just didn't do anything. They gave up 300 yards before getting 10 offensive yards. I just cannot see how. I know this is a team that played before, so you'll naturally should have a bit of a better read of how to play them, but I can't see how offensively they're going to be better this week. I just can't. And Minnesota, they hammered the Falcons last week. That seemed to get them out of a bit of a funk they were having offensively, and Sam Darnold was great. But if you don't need to, I just don't think you're just going to pummel this team for the fun of it. This is now save people for the playoff situation for the Vikings. And if you're winning comfy, take it easy, I think. And I think that's where it's going to be. I'm really struggling to see how the Bears get to 14. So I'm going to take the under 43.5 here.
Fair. I've gone with a Dunze anytime touchdown at plus 360. I was struggling to get a read on this game, I must say. I took the Bears on ATS just because it's over a touchdown. And these two teams, I feel like, have a habit of playing close games, especially the Vikings. So it's kind of funny, my logic for this was, I was tempted to go Caleb Williams as anytime touchdown again. I think I took him against the Vikings a few weeks ago, and it was plus 400. It's around that again, and he just didn't come in. I think he might come in, but I went with Dunze because DJ Moore and Keenan Allen scored against him last time, so Dunze is due. Is my entire reasoning. I'm not saying it's solid. It might not be my favorite bet I've picked of the week, but that's my entire reasoning. And Dunze, I think, is looking better in the second half of the season. I think he's playing better. So I think he is due a touchdown. So, yeah, I've gone for him to get a touchdown plus 360. And, Joe, I love your bet here. I'll let you talk it through that.
Yeah, I struggled a bit with the bet. So I've got Jordan Anderson longest reception over 40 yards at plus 450. Just how they've been performing the last few weeks, him and Justin Jefferson, it felt like they heard Byron saying that T. Higgins was the best number 2 and the best tandem. And then, these two stepped up. I don't know if you saw the NFL video of them two going off as well, saying, we're the best tandem in the NFL. Don't know if they were shouting that directly to you, Byron, but they still made a case that he is the best number 2 wide receiver, and it's come at a perfect time. There were some rumblings at the start of the year with his dad saying Sam Darnold's not good enough and all these kind of things, and it's been flipped on its head. And so I went for that. And also, I watched the Bears last week, the full game against the Niners, and they were just, I don't know if they're going to be that bad this time because they felt so underprepared. Yeah. But it was just so easy for the 49ers, who have struggled on offense, to get big yards. And there was just, Kittle was just rumbling down, Juwan Jennings. It just felt so easy. And it feels like they've kind of given up this Bears team. And they're just ready for the new year. they've still got the hardest schedule the last 4 games. So I do feel sorry for the certainly for Caleb Williams. I feel like that sack record is going to get close because I think this Vikings are going to get. I think that's going to be my second bet. I'm going to look at how many sacks the Vikings can get on this Bears team, because when the 49ers where Joey Bosa's not playing and they get 7 sacks against you, that's a huge worry, And we talked about it, just like how just disastrous this O-line's been. It just seems like they were just bad all around. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as that, but I still see these Vikings winning and winning comfortably. Darnold, when he's -6 and over, is 4-5. With all 4 being with the Vikings this year, so it leans towards them covering that spread. So I've gone the Vikings as well, just because how bad the Bears team was. But I feel like it's going to. Yeah, I'm curious with this game, just how much the players have given up, because after getting that shellacking last week, it feels like they've got something to prove, and if they want to keep being the Bears next year, they've got to do a lot better than getting 4 yards at halftime. So,
you mentioned obviously the kind of beating Caleb's been taking, and 7 sacks last week. Just to take it away from kind of the bets and stuff a second, how worried are you be? Obviously, we always talk, or it's always referred back to David Carr back in 2000, whenever it was, for the Texans, when he just took a beating in a much different time as well, where he did really take a beating as a quarterback.
Rough in the passer didn't exist, right?
Yeah, and then he was just almost just shell shocked.
Yeah.
From then on, he kind of almost never had a chance. How worried are you that this is going to have an adverse effect on Caleb, because he just keeps on taking a beating?
I'm not hugely. I mean, you look at Sam Howell, he bounced. No, I'm not really worried.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been obviously it's not great, but I think his players improved throughout the year. That again, I didn't see David Carr as a rookie. I've seen a lot of him taking sacks after the event, but I don't imagine his playing improved throughout the year regardless. So I think it's more important who the hire is for Chicago and how they go into next year. It goes without saying, I guess, it has to be right, or they're going to fuck it.
Yeah.
And I think Caleb's got that confidence as well. Again, I wasn't around when David Carr was there, but Caleb came in with that swagger, and it feels like the quarterback position is slightly different. Like David Carr was, I'm going to stick in the pocket, and there's probably nothing much else. While Caleb's got a little bit more. I would like to see him take a bit more chances. It feels like he's how they start the season with a few interceptions, and he's being like, "Oh, I'm not going to throw any more risky passes because I don't want that stat." But then it's also taken away of what he was good at college and some of the difficult balls, or just going for it. Then it feels like he's not doing that just because he's worried. So is that the scheme? Is that just him? Is it a mixture of both? Quite possibly, but it feels like now the season's over. Why not just take some chances, see what you can do, see what the players you've got around you to build for next year. But like you said, the hire next year, it has to be an offensive head coach. If they're good defensive, then I'm sorry, Chicago Bears, but your quarterback's never going to go over 3,000 yards.
Go over 3,000, you want to get to 4.
We'll get to 4.
Sorry, 4. Yeah, I do apologize. 4,000.
Just one last shout out on this one, and it was the one, so I meant to mention it when we were discussing my bet earlier, but the under, I suppose what makes me feel, I've not talked about it for quite a while now, but the smart money. Only 9% of the bets, but 55% of the money is on the under.
Very sharp. So anyway, we'll move on. Now I've got our sharp bet of the week out of the way, and we're better to end. We've had Lions, Bills. Sunday I've got Steelers, Eagles. What a game. Packers, Seahawks. What a fanfare of football. And obviously to end it, what more could you ask for than Desmond Ridder revenge game? Falcons at Raiders. Off to Vegas. What happened in Vegas should stay off national TV, but it does not.
It's so depressing. I'll let you finish.
Falcons are 4-point favourites. Paul, you've took Falcons -4. I'm just going to shout it out as your bet of the day. I don't know how it's only -4. I was going to have it on here if you didn't. So take it away. Why are the Falcons only -4? Or what should
I'll
they
get
be?
there. How do you not move Steelers Eagles into this spot?
Not
And just flex this out like, yeah.
Even like there's some like really big game. Oh yeah, like you said, Bills Lions. You know, like you said, Steelers Eagles. Even Buccaneers Chargers would be a very fun Monday night game just to like throw it in. Even like Dolphins Texans, which we've talked about. There's like so many more games to be more exciting. This feels like when it was the
Cardinals.
I was just about to say this is the Patriots Cardinals where like nobody watches it, but it's like the lowest. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It's Falcons -4, but I don't love it. I really don't. I really don't because they're just playing so badly at the minute. This is another one where you feel like the one thing the Raiders will be able to do is get pressure on Kirk Cousins, and can you force enough mistakes with where he's at the minute to keep it a game? So I don't love it. But I've taken the Falcons -. They've got to get right. They have to get right to try and push the Buccaneers. You've got potential of then come the end of Monday night being back on top of the NFC South because the Bucs have got a tough game against the Chargers. You've got a relatively easy game against the Raiders. You can potentially get back on, and all of a sudden it's been a stinking run, but it's back in your hands.
Yeah,
and that's where it could be come the end of Monday night. And yeah, it's almost just that surely the Falcons are going to get out of this funk. But the Raiders have lost 9 in a row, haven't they? So it's like, well, they're not just going to carry on losing. They're going to win a game at some point. Like, they're not going to lose 13 in a row, are they? Like, it's just not going to happen. They might, but I just don't think it's going to happen. They're going to win a game somewhere. And it also feels like, of the games they've got left, this is the one that they could win. So, yeah, I don't like it, but I just think the Falcons have to do something to get back in this NFC South race, and this is the way. I think this is the week to flip it back in their favour.
And I think it's definitely Kirk Cousins. This is the week where if he stinks against the Raiders and lose, then there's going to be a change. Because like the last few games, we've been playing tough teams, and he played well against the Vikings, except the interceptions, which doesn't help. But he actually, he was like going up and down the field, and he was keeping them in that game. And you know, what me and Paul talked about, they were tied going into the fourth quarter, and then it just like everything just went to pot. So he had a good game, and I agreed sticking with him for this game because you don't want to risk a rookie right now when you're playing a team you should beat with Kirk Cousins. When you know you're only one game back, and who knows with the Bucs against the Chargers, you could be back at the top of the NFC South again. But if he stinks out here, then I think they have to make the change.
I just don't think they will. Like, as much as we were discussing it, like I just don't think Raheem Morris will. I just don't think he's that kind of person to do that. I think they'd go into it. I think they make in the off season they might go. We find a way to get out of this Kirk situation, which I don't know if they can, but and roll with Michael Penix. But I just don't think Raheem Morris would bench Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's got it in him to do it. If that makes sense.
Be a big call. Mike Tomlin would do it.
Mike Tomlin would have fucking done it by now.
And the Falcons do have a soft rest of season schedule, but the Falcons are a soft touch themselves right now. If they don't win the division, is there any chance Raheem Morris is one and done?
I think so, because the Buccaneers could win this with 9, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Like
because right now the Falcons Panthers is week 18. Who would you pick in that game? I know we're previewing week 15, but I'm just thinking ahead. Commanders, you'd pick Commanders. Giants, surely the Falcons can be.
Well, yeah.
But they could lose if they don't beat the Raiders. They can lose to the Giants. They can lose to the Commanders. Obviously, they can lose to the Panthers, and then
to be 6-3 and then not get a winning record would be madness, wouldn't it?
It'd be wild, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I like Raheem Morris as well, but yeah, I think he could be because I think there's almost just a bit of going. Well, this was a complete disaster.
Yeah,
and you're playing Vidor as well. That's like a big thing.
It's a revenge game.
Yeah. But I'll shout my bet out while I've gone Bijan 100+ rushing yards and anytime touchdowns. I think they're going to try and lean on him quite a lot. This Raiders team, I read this stat and it was mind blowing. In all 13 games this season, they've been down by 10+ points at some point. And there's only one team who's the first team to do that since the 1986 Colts, who did it every 16 games straight. So I think the Falcons can get up on this team. They might throw to begin with Mooney and why is that just blank? Yeah, Drake London. And then they might lean on Bijan. It feels like he's getting the rock a lot more the last few weeks. They've not split it as much. I think Algier had a good week last week, but with a lot less rushing attempts. It feels like they've just gone, we're going to just go Bijan for quite a lot of this game. So I think he's going to have this big game against this Raiders team. And I can see him getting a touchdown.
Have we just got to week 15, by the way, and that's the first time the ball's been referred to as the Rock? Because I'm a big fan of that.
Could be. My bet of the game, Kirk Cousins to go over 300 passing yards. I cannot believe this is plus 450. I know the Raiders might be able to get pressure on him, but he's gone over 300 in 2 of his last 4, including last week on his empty calories, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions game. But I was just kind of surprised it was a plus 450. I'm not going to say it's nailed on by any means, but it's something he can certainly do, even if the Raiders don't give up passing touchdowns. He goes up and down the field just fine. He has been getting it in the end zone recently. It's been the problem. And, the more picks he throws, the quicker he's going to get the ball back to go again. So, like I said, I was surprised it was as high as 450 to go over 300. So, I like it. I like the Falcons to cover here as well. Like I say, I probably would have had that on my bet sheet. Had you not already had it on there, it might be my second bet of the game on our actual Insta post because, I just think the Raiders are lost at sea, truthfully. So
I'm guessing
that wraps up our. Sorry, Joe.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say. So I've got some more facts for this game if you want them. So when Kirk gets sacked 3+ times, and this Raiders is a top 10 blitzing team, he's 1-5 straight up. So obviously he doesn't do well. So he's hoping for his Falcons line to do well, but. Some good news that he's not struggling Monday night as much as he started career. So he started 0-9 against the spread and straight up on Monday Night Football. But in the last 4 of his 5 starts, he's 4 of his last 5 straight up and against the spread. So he's turned it around on his Monday night performances. I would just steal your stat, Paul.
No, but how do you lose 9 in a row on Monday Night Football?
There you go.
You go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, but on the reverse side, Antonio Pierce is 2-0 against spread on Monday night games. So on night games.
Okay.
On night games. So it's head to head. Who's going to break that record?
My one concern is Kirk Cousins has never played in Vegas. Kirk gets those lights there. What are the chances we just see like the Hangover Part 4 and it's Kirk Cousins?
And I feel like I've raised this before. If it's at Vegas, is it afternoon?
What time is it? 7? Yeah, it'll be 5:15.
It'll be 8. It'll be 5. I don't know where that
Vegas.
Falls.
Vegas is 24/7. So what's night? What's day?
Vegas night's 24. Vegas is always nighttime.
Got you.
So I just worry that Kirk. There's a lot goes down in Vegas that Kirk probably hasn't seen before.
What? Why are we having a Monday Night Football game in Vegas? What's Monday afternoon, 5 p.m. in Vegas?
In week 15. I wish I could tell you. I have absolutely no idea. I think it's a joke.
Maybe Monday Night Football games should be banned in some areas. I feel like Las Vegas doesn't need a Monday afternoon football game.
Probably doesn't. But you know what we need? We need a 4th.
Move on from this, yeah.
We do. We need a 4th full draft, I think. So Joe is going to be first up, so he can blame himself if he hasn't got his stuff ready on time for getting the graphics in. And I should really have a look at what I'm going to pick because I have not yet done so. I'm pretty sure I can do my favour to my underdogs by glancing at the sheet, but
right.
I'll explain how this works while Joe's preparing. So, this is our regular 4-4 challenge. We're picking over a favourite and underdog and over and under from the NFL slate for the week to make somewhere around a 12-1 bet. We've got our guest, Phil Marsh from the HuddleUK. Later on, he'll pick his 4-fold. We have hit 3 of them so far. I've hit twice. Joe's hit once. And he's also hit a half as well, so 3.5 times. I can see him getting a bit despondent about not mentioning half. And yeah, we are going to carry on. And the loser has to complete loser of the season between three of us has to complete a 24-hour fast food challenge where they have to spend 24 hours in a fast food chain restaurant and eat their way out. And at this moment in time, that is currently Byron, who's going to eat himself out of the Taco Bell.
Yeah, look forward to it in a way. I love Taco Bell. But there is elements where I'm not looking forward to it. 24 hours.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's not going to be 24 hours because I can put my food away.
You're going to eat yourself out. It's going to be a while.
But the problem with I have a pretty hard iron stomach. I often brag to Cindy about. But Taco Bell,
yeah, that's not
enough to get you out quickly. Is I don't know if the punishment's going to be eating the Taco Bell or once I'm home.
Yeah.
24 hours on the toilet, yeah.
In between as well, I think it's going to be a rough day. Like I'm the same. I'm going to do Taco Bell as well.
You don't need to worry about it, mate. Your mouth's clear.
Yeah, well, just in case, But yeah, it's going to be rough.
It certainly is.
Well, you need to catch Joe. That's it. You can get you 3 games behind Joe. So 2.5, 3.5.
3.
I don't know.
At least 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was doing some stats today, and I realized I went 2-10 to start the first 3 weeks, so I've done pretty well to overtake Byron. Cool. Well, I'll go with my first pick. I'm going to choose a game we haven't talked about because we know Paul is going to choose one, so it gives Byron some time to have a look at his sheet.
I'm not.
So I'm going to go under to start with. I've got quite a few favorites and underdogs, I think. So my under is the Buccaneers and Chargers under 45.5. It's mainly because the Chargers is mainly all defense. I'm just hoping the Bucs don't, Baker doesn't continue his trend of giving the ball away too much to give the Chargers easy scores. But 45.5, I think it's going to be a close game. It's a big game for both teams where they both need a win. So then they're going to try not to lose rather than to try and win it. I feel like these kind of two teams. And the Chargers offense is just without Lad McConkey. I'm not quite sure if he's playing this weekend. I haven't looked at the injury report, but if he's not playing, then they haven't got much offense. So I think it's going to be a tight game. And it feels like these are the same teams, NFC, AFC. They represent the same type of team in each conference. So I think it's going to be a tight affair and under 45.5.
Yeah, I love this bet as well. It's one of my favourite bets of the week. But McConkey was limited at practice yesterday and today, so Thursday. So that suggests he probably will play. Justin Herbert also limited at practice with an ankle and thigh injury. I fully expect him to play, but he's banged up as well. But yeah, I like this one. So you've got a Tampa Bay team who are an over team, 8-5 for the over, and Chargers who are 9-4 on the under. I seem to think in these situations the under plays out, like the under team drags the over team down. And I agree with you. This is possibly my favourite bet of the week. I love the under here.
I mean, it's going to be an over then.
Because that doesn't mean it's good, but just my read is I agree with you. It's not necessarily a good place to be. And I'm going to take my favourite of the week. I'm going to take the Bengals -5. What the fuck were the Titans doing last week against the Jaguars? I think the Bengals are going to, and I feel like this is the kind of game where the Bengals don't go in and smash somebody, but I'm kind of banking that the Bengals are going to go and smash the Titans here. There's a lot of they're on the outside looking into the playoffs. There's an opportunity to take out some frustration here and just beat the absolute living piss out of the Titans because the Titans are horrendous. We've praised certain elements of the Titans, but how the fuck do you not beat the Jaguars last week? Bengals -5. The Bengals might win this by 50.
But they're not going to smash anybody.
No, yeah, they probably won't. They might probably win this by 3. But yeah, I don't know. I know the Bengals get squeezed past the Cowboys on Monday night, didn't they? Quick shout out. Any of you guys watch The Simpsons stuff?
I've seen some clips of it.
It was real bad. Yeah, it was real. We need to stop doing that. There's the Chiefs Texans next week is a Madden game, so they're doing a video game. Yeah, it's going to be real bad. Stop doing that. The Toy Story one was the level. It's never going to be as good as that. And that was also used on a London game, which is the exact kind of game to use it for.
I like the clips of the Nickelodeon one with SpongeBob, just because Patrick, I think it might be. I've never seen SpongeBob, so I'm guessing people's names. Well, I know one of them's called Patrick. Trolled Russell Wilson when he threw a pick, which was absolutely hilarious. It was Russell Wilson's first year in Denver, and it kind of felt like that's exactly how the year should have ended for the Russell Wilson in Denver that year. I think it peaked there. So
yeah.
The
I wonder how Jamar Chase felt about being replaced by Ralph Wiggum. It
doesn't feel like for like.
Yeah. Anyway, Bengals -5 is the pick.
I was going to say more the punt when they blocked the punt. The guy who decided to touch it was more Ralph Wiggum than anyone else.
I felt that, and that guy, to be fair, I think he was elevated from the practice squad that day, so I guess he wasn't particularly involved in many special teams practices. It was just a real bad look that you just don't know the fucking rules.
Yep. If in doubt, get the fuck away from the ball.
You also never see. I can't remember. Well, I do remember the last time. You never see those punt blocks go past the line of scrimmage. You always get them, but the last team to do that and fuck that up was the Dallas Cowboys 3 years ago at home to the Denver Broncos. So only twice. It's happened twice in 10 years. Cowboys guilty of it twice. Same special teams coordinator.
Maybe it's time for John Bones to be fossilized. Anyway, speaking of the Cowboys and John Bones fossil, I'm going to take my over. I'm going to take Cowboys Panthers over 43. Shout out over Sean's knee, which is all over his body at this point. Every ligament I believe he has is torn. Probably not going to be back for next season, truthfully. Or if it is, it'll be the very end of it.
It's such a shame, isn't it? He's been so good.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, missed his whole rookie year. That might be him done, I think.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully not, but not a quick recovery by any means. And, real sad end to what's been a breakout second half of the season, certainly for him. So,
Cowboys linebacker curse, isn't it? Sean Lee, always injured. Jalen Smith, I guess they knew about that already. And Van Der Esch, if you're promising linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, you're just going to be crippled by injuries.
Yep, get that insurance ASAP, lads. But the Panthers' offense is rolling more than it has been. The defense is still sloppy. Cowboys' offense, Cooper Rush is a drop-off, but it's not a critical one. I think both teams can score 20 here. I don't think that's wild to assume. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to get his regular hunk of targets. Chuba Hubbard can probably go pretty wild on the ground. Over 43, not a huge number to hit. Not the deepest of analysis, but I don't think it's a wild number. I'm going to stick on the over-unders for my second pick here. I'm going to go Pats Cardinals under 46. I just honestly didn't really expect it to be such a high number. Cardinals 6-point favorites. I think it's going to be a heavy run game. Hopefully Trey McBride finally gets in the end zone. But Patriots, I don't think. Trey McBride's playing well, definitely. But I don't think they're a team that's putting up 20 points regularly. Cardinals defense has been looking better generally second half through the season. So I think this is going to be one that's maybe more in the 24-10 kind of scoreline, maybe 20-14. I've got the Cardinals to cover on the spread. I'm not sure if we all do or not. Why can't I find the game now? No, you went Patriots, Paul. But
I'm on Patriots,
I just don't see it being a high-scoring game. There's a lot of tough games to pick this week on the scoring where I think it could go either way. Whereas this one, I kind of expect this to be more like the 42-43. So I'll take those, what I regard as bonus points, and take the under 46. And Kyler Murray, I think, has been playing sneaky, not too great. The second half of the season. I know you mentioned it last week of the Call of Duty curse. Yeah. We always used to blend the Kingsbury dip, but maybe it's a double dip of Call of Duty and Cliff altogether. But I like Drake May a lot, but I just don't. It's not there for him to put up a 30-point game, because the offense isn't there. So that's my over and under dealt with. Paul, you've got your favourite done. What's next?
I guess I can leave the underdog to last. And the under. I need a dog or an over. I'm going to take my favourite over, which I think is Commanders Saints over 43. I know no Derek Carr.
No Taysom Hill.
No Taysom Hill. I think it could just be a little bit of chaos. I don't know if we're going Spencer Rattler or Jake Hayner. Something tells me Derek Carr's not been put on IR yet, has he? And it's a broken bone in his non-throwing hand. And he's crazy for just playing through injuries.
He is.
He is a lunatic for playing through, which is fair for being so tough.
Yeah, so it's Commanders. What is the number?
It's 43. It's a low number.
That is a low one, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think, I know Commanders have struggled, but they obviously got going against the Titans because the Titans just gave them everything and then had a bye. So I think like they could roll, and this could just be a bit of a high-scoring game in terms of they could get to 40 quite easily, and then you just relying on the Saints getting something going, and whether that is Derek Carr with a broken hand or Spencer Rattler or Jake Hayner, something chaotic can happen. But I like over 43. It's a must-have. This Commanders got to have this one, right? Looking at the schedule, look at their games left.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of the ones to target. Like they probably need 2 more wins to be safe of to get to 10 and be safe of a NFC wildcard slot, which is looking like it's going to be the 7th seed. So yeah, I feel they've got to have it. I think they might just put it on the Saints a little bit here.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to Fantasy Game Day. I'm not sure if anybody's going to have him in our selections, but Brian Robinson, I think, might be one of those smash players this week of no Austin Eckler, and then the guys behind him. They do well in, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, kind of like in their spot moments. But if you can get Brian Robinson a 20 touch, 25 touch workload here, I think you'd be really happy with it if you could get him in Fantasy Game Day and you guarantee that workload. With Brian Robinson, there always is that little thing of like, is he just going to get 3 touches and miss the rest of the game? It seems to happen quite a bit with him, but when he gets a full workload,
does when we pick him.
Yeah. Dream matchup, workload going to smash. It's like, actually, I'm going to take Sunday off. But yeah, if he gets full workload this week, I think he's a nice play. See if he's in our Fantasy Game Day tips. So, Joe, what have you got? You've got your not underdog, under already taken. What's next? And you are on mute if you didn't notice.
Yeah. I'm going to choose 2 games we've talked about. I'm going to do it.
This fucking guy.
Just before Paul takes them. So I'm going to go back over first. I'm going to go the Packers Seahawks. I'm going to go over 46. Like I said, I think it's going to be a high scoring game and a fun one. I was tempted to go the Houston game, but I'm going to lean the Packers game more, and then I'm going to go for my why is that done that? My favorite, which is the Falcons -4. Not got much more to say, and I put Paul on the spot.
Yeah, finally, that's a good shout. It was one I was considering before I went to Bengals, but what have I got under? And no, don't need under. I need my dog. I'm going to take the Cowboys. It's ridiculous, I know, but I'm going to take the Cowboys plus 2.5. Is that what you were going to take, Joe? Yeah.
It was, because I just assumed you were going to take your man, your guy.
There's 2, and I was going to do it, but we'll get to the end, I'm sure, and talk about that game a little bit. But yeah, you know what? I was. But I'm taking the Cowboys plus 2.5, not because of any confidence in the Cowboys. The Panthers are terrible, terrible, terrible home favourites. This is the first time in a long time the Panthers have been a favourite for any game. But they are, when they've had a significantly better team, they are 1-9 straight up and 1-9 ATS in their last 10 as a home favourite. I'm going to take the Cowboys plus 2.5. I know the Panthers have been playing a lot better, and I know the Panthers are a lot better than the Cowboys at the minute, which is an insane thing to say week 15, given kind of where we thought both these teams are going to be. But yeah, I just think the flip to making the Panthers a favourite is kind of going to maybe fuck them a little bit when they've been playing so well. Like that's just too big of a leap for where they've been at, I think. And we might just see them regress to where we're expecting them a little bit more. Everything says that the Panthers should kill the Cowboys here, really. Chuba Hubbard should run all over them, especially we just talked about Overshawn being out. That's huge for the Cowboys, and particularly in the run game as well. Cowboys have been better on the road. I think they'll be okay here. I think they probably win the game and beat the Panthers.
Agreed. They're on my shortlist, certainly.
It's crazy the Panthers are a favourite.
Yeah, now cross off my shortlist, obviously.
They were also on an in the hunt graphic that I saw earlier, as were the Cowboys still, as were the Bears and the Saints.
As were the Bears, yeah. I've seen the similar one, I'm guessing then, yeah.
They're just not mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, because it made me laugh, actually. I didn't mention it during our Vikings-Bears preview, but between the two of them, they have a 100% chance of making the playoffs, with the Vikings making up 99% of that.
Yeah, I saw it. It was the NFL UK Twitter account that I saw it, and I was like, great content, guys. Did a real good job there.
If it gets people talking, that is generally the point of shit content, though, isn't it?
Don't insult people's intelligence.
Say something stupid so people tell you you're stupid, but it gets engagement. It is an odd media landscape sometimes.
Yeah.
Speaking of odd decisions, I feel like I'm going to regret this one instantly, because I feel this might have been the underdog you wanted to take, and I'm going to take the favourite. I'm going to go. Just checking the number. I thought I had it as 4, but it's 5. Eagles -5.
What are you doing, man?
George Pickens, I don't think he's going to play. The Steelers' offense doesn't function without George Pickens. The Eagles are really, really good. They're playing at home. That's largely it, truthfully. I wanted the Falcons. They went. I should have took them earlier. I did have a second one lined up, but I really think the Eagles are just going to wipe the floor. Is too strong of a term. But I just really worry about this Steelers offense without George Pickens, and I don't think Pickens is going to go. So I think the Eagles cover. I think that O-line versus the Steelers D-line is going to be a fascinating matchup, but I give the edge slightly to the Eagles O-line. I think we might see an A.J. Brown squeaky wheel game. Jalen Hurts has got to play better than he's been playing.
Just a quick one on the A.J. Brown stuff that's been going on this week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an issue? Is there beef there?
I don't think it's far away from being an issue. It's maybe my answer. Winning was all.
I was about to say.
But AJ Brown also wants hits. Yeah, AJ Brown also wants hits. So winning does cure everything, but AJ Brown, I think, is the prototypical diva wide receiver in the NFL right now. Even guys like Justin Jefferson have got swag, but I don't think they're quite in that diva mentality.
I would say Devontae Smith said something similar, but the press jumped on the AJ Brown kind of thing. Like you mentioned, it's all about clicks, and because he's got that reputation. That Devontae Smith said the exact, but more or less the same thing as well, but it's not really being mentioned.
Yeah, I absolutely love this game as well. Obviously, we didn't talk about it in depth because Bills Lions is the bigger game in that window. What a waste of having them in the same window, though. And Steelers Eagles is an East Coast game. Put it on the early slate.
Why is this not at 1 o'clock? Sorry.
I think because both broadcasters wanted their number one broadcaster in the 4 o'clock slate. It's dumb, but that's why they do it. So yeah, that's my favorite of the week, which feels wild. And my underdog is a game we've already talked about. Gino and the boys at home, +2.5. Come on.
Gino and the boys.
Gino and the lads, come on. Seahawks +2.5 over Green Bay. I had another couple that I kind of like, but I didn't want to be dead on Thursday night. I like the Rams to beat the 49ers. Straight up, truthfully. But I hate betting the Thursday on my fourfold because it's just so annoying because then I have to bet a freefold tomorrow if it doesn't come in and you feel stupid. So yeah, that was my other underdog I was tempted by, but we're going to stay in the NFC West. We're going to go Gino and the boys and upset them Green Bay Packers, and let's see if they can tough enough to go on the West Coast and win.
Excellent. I'm going to take my under. I've got 2. They are both games with preview, Joe, so apologies. Do I go Monday or do I stick? Dolphins Texans under 47. Just going to stick with the first one. Falcons Raiders was the other one. I'm going to go, Dolphins Texans. But so Texans home unders are 2-7-1 in the last 10 Texans home games. So seems to be a bit of a theme. So I'm going to ride that kind of run of form is going to continue. Under 47 for Texans Dolphins. Joe, you've got to do it, right?
You know what? I'm so tempted to do it because I was going to choose. I was going to choose that as. I was going to choose that as well. I think I'm going to do it. Just give me a second. I'll just quickly go through. Yeah, because I was looking at my other underdogs, and I've got the Browns. I'm not confident in.
Not at 4.
Yeah, I got Bucks. I'm not confident
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got many more. Like Bears, I'm not confident in. So yeah, I'm gonna go against Byron. It's gonna be to basically stamp out any to get even further away from Byron and for him to start looking which Taco Bell he's gonna order from.
I love that strategy. It has to go into the Taco Bell, Joe. We can't order it at home.
No, yeah, he has to figure out which one he's going to because he might want to choose there could be some nicer establishments than some other ones. Some could be in a rougher state. Some can skimp on certain ingredients. So
feel free to skimp, guys. Feel free to skimp. You want to serve me an empty bag and say it's 24 hours worth of tacos and I just leave? I'll do it.
Oh, don't be like that. This is a full Instagram story day of.
Well, I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to see
these tacos.
Paul, do you want to trade underdogs?
A little bit, yeah. Can we do that? I love it. And the thing is, why I didn't take it is I do love the. I started to say it. I didn't mean it like that. I love the Eagles in terms of where they're at and how they're playing. And I know they had a bit of a rough game against the Panthers last week, but
you have to get your Christmas jumper, mate.
I know, yeah. I feel like that was just like a look-ahead spot for the Eagles. Like they weren't really paying attention. But the Steelers, but how much I think the Eagles are good makes me think that the Steelers +5 is an even better pick because that's more that the Steelers shouldn't win this game. And yet they're probably going to find a way to win the game because that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. That's what Mike Tomlin does. One thing making me a tad nervous is obviously everybody's on what we're on. Steelers as an underdog. 80% of the bets, 86% of the money is on the Steelers +5. That makes me think it's a little bit stinky and I don't like it.
Well, what does your black book, your Mike Tomlin black book says? Is he just...
Everything says go for it. Like the analytics say go for it. 4th and Steelers underdog, go for it, is what the analytics say. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I've stopped prepping the numbers, but Steelers as a road underdog, 8-2 in the last 10 straight up, 8-2 ATS. It's foolproof at this point. It's almost on Mahomes as an underdog level of consistency hitting.
But this is where I think it was a few weeks ago when me and Byron, I think they picked the Bengals, and we were like, we're going to sit here saying, how stupid are we for not going for them? And the one time I actually think, I actually go the Steelers, is the one time the Eagles win by 5. But hey-ho, I picked it. Inspired with my Giants underdog pick last week, so let's keep it rolling with this week with the Steelers beating the Eagles and
even lose by field goal. That makes sense.
They're going to win, Paul. Confidence. The Steelers are going to win.
Just to point out, I don't like to throw dirt on your beautiful Mike Tomlin stats, etc. The Steelers have played in Philadelphia 3 times as an underdog. They are 0-3 and 0-3 against the spread in Philadelphia as an underdog.
All with Mike Tomlin?
Not what I have mentioned, no. I mean, one was with Mike Tomlin in 2022. They were 11.5-point underdogs. They lost by 22. Mike Tomlin, was he there in 2008? I think he will have been.
Probably 2008 might have been year 1, yeah.
Yeah, 3.5-point underdogs lost by 9. 91, I don't think he was there. So
yeah.
Also, we forgot to mention as well. Dallas Goedert somehow he went on IR. It feels like that slipped under the radar the last few weeks, how bad that injury was. It just felt like, but hopefully that goes in my
Probably
favor.
done till the playoffs now, isn't it? Like, after the playoffs. So,
Grant Calcaterra got his first NFL touchdown of his career last week, though, so maybe not missing Dallas got it that much. And anyway, that is the end of our 4-full draft. We'll see our guest,
Phil Marsh from
Phil. I think
HuddleUK.
it's Marsh. Something I had Patrick in my head. Phil, my apologies, Phil. Phil's picks coming up very soon. Before that, though, we have our ATS competition, and we will have our Fantasy Gameday tips after that before we get to Phil. If we keep on rocking here. All right, so Thursday Night Football will be over and done with by the time you listen to this. I've gone solo on the Rams, Paul and Joe on the Niners. Got Baltimore 16.5-point favourites at the New York Giants with Tommy DeVito taking the start again. Paul, you are the only person to go. The Giants just too big of a number, right?
Yeah, it's too big of a number. Also, this is the first time in over 12 months that a team has been this big of a favourite or underdog. Who was the team that was the underdog last time?
The Giants against
the Giants. The Cowboys annihilated them, and Tommy DeVito started that game. So everything tells me I should pick the Ravens. But it's just too big a number. I feel like this might be similar to kind of Philly last week against the Panthers, where this is a bit of a look-ahead spot for the Ravens. They're off a bye. They've got the Steelers next week. It's like, just get through this game, and it might end up being kind of sneaky close, like 10 points. And they're just not covering the number. And that's not because the Ravens are bad or the Giants are good. It's just kind of a bit of a shitty game where the Ravens are just doing enough to get by. Steelers is the big game next week. We've got to win. That's my thought process behind it.
I've gone the opposite.
This number.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and hammer them just because they lost the last time out to the Eagles. They lost Steelers a few weeks ago. They've had the bye. It feels like they've got a show. I think everyone's just like, put them to the side and talk about the Bills and the Chiefs, and they've slipped down to number 8 on our power ranking. So I think they're gonna see that ranking. I think, come on, guys, we need to get back up there. Let's absolutely hammer this Giants team.
A quick note on these big favourites as well. So this will be the 11th time there's been a 10+ point favourite in the NFL so far this season. The first 6 covered. The last 4 haven't. I'm going that to continue and backing the Giants. Just to keep, they don't even have to keep it close to the 16.5, but keep it somewhat close.
Giants, the only NFC team to beat Lamar Jackson as well.
Yeah.
Not sure they'll beat him, but yeah, maybe keep it close. I did struggle with it. It's such a big number. We all went Titans to lose by more than 5 against the Bengals. So we all went Bengals to cover. Sorry there.
It's a funny way to say that.
Yeah, I looked at the word Tennessee first, and I was like, wait, we haven't took Tennessee. So we all took Bengals to cover -5 against Titans. We all took Cowboys +2.5 at Carolina.
That feels wrong.
And Joe,
that feels wrong. That feels like the Panthers are going to win by 20, doesn't it? Yeah.
Chiefs on the road as 4-point favourites. Me and Joe took Cleveland. Paul, you took the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Browns were horrible last week against the Steelers.
And I'm not going to. I've gone for the Chiefs the last 3 weeks and lost every single cover. So this week I'm like, I'm not doing anymore. I'm not. So that it's going to be similar with the Steelers. This where when I finally go again,
better about it. I feel like this number, even with where they're at, like I feel this number should be a lot better. I feel this should be like 6.5, 7.5. Chiefs. I don't understand why it's 4, which should make me.
It doesn't feel like the Chiefs can comfortably beat anybody right now.
Yeah, but the Browns
they beat everybody.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to come down to like them just a walk-off field goal at the end. Like I feel like they are going to get a look. But the Browns were so bad last week against the Chiefs.
It feels like that's the Browns every other week though. And
is Kadarius Toney going to do a punt return touchdown here or something after?
Kadarius Toney's been waived, so
so no, yeah,
unlikely.
Yeah, very.
But
unlikely.
I mean, if he doesn't touch the ball, which is unlikely because he's been waived, he'll have better contributions than he did last week. I don't know if you covered it on the review show. He had 2 touches of the ball, one he muffed, and the other one he got a taunting penalty down 23 points, I believe.
Yeah.
Unbelievable player. He also, of the, I think, 251 wide receivers who've touched the ball in the NFL this year, Kadarius Toney in fantasy football is ranked 251. He has negative points on the season.
I think the Chiefs have not covered 7 in a row now. Is it 7 in a row?
It's been a while, yeah. That's why, again,
Yeah,
I didn't
it's
love
7 in a
taking the
row.
Browns here. And kind of, we don't change our picks. These are locked in now. If David Njoku misses his game, I would want the Chiefs -4.
Yeah.
But if Njoku plays, I want the Browns +4.
The Chiefs haven't covered 7 in a row, and obviously the 6-1 in that span.
Yep.
It's not like they're going to cover a game. That's just not going to continue, surely.
Well, it's not going to continue one way. Either they stop winning these games or they stop not covering them. I almost think it's more like they lose straight up. They're skating by.
They are, and I've been saying as the weeks have gone by, like they're getting me to think they're not good, and they're getting me to think I'm going to bet against them in the playoffs, and they're really pushing me to do that. But I'm just not going to do it. And yeah, I think they're going to cover. I think they might win by 10 and be relatively comfortable for a Chiefs game, which obviously just very rarely happens. Yeah, I don't like it, but I just can't take the Browns.
Cool. Bit in depth on our ATS there, but we've got Miami +3 going into Houston. Joe and Paul have took Miami. I've took the Texans. Bit of a toss-up for me. I'm just going to go Texans at home. I almost changed the Dolphins truthfully back, and I seen you two had the Dolphins. I was like, we can't all go Dolphins here. I'm going to stick with Texans. Don't love it. I've taken the Jags as 3.5-point underdogs at home against the Jets. Hate both teams. Just give me the one with plus points is my entire philosophy here. Breece Hall will be missing again. Rodgers stinks. Mac Jones stinks. Everybody stinks. Just give me the plus points. I have nothing.
How did this not go as the under on the fourfold? How did nobody take this game?
It was on my shortlist. Yeah, it's like 40 points as well, right? I forget the exact number.
Yeah, and that could be why I could have put people off. It was 40.5.
Yeah, which I mean, it's tough to see it going over, truthfully, but yeah, we've all taken Commanders -7.5 at New Orleans. Buffalo, Detroit, we've covered. Joe and me are on the Lions -2.5. Paul, you are on Buffalo +2.5. Paul, you are riding solo. Colts +4 going into Denver. This is one I was going to take as my favorite if I didn't take the Eagles. I just think the Broncos are a bit more well-rounded, but the Colts just keep games close, whether they win or lose. So, like, it was going to be a tough one. I think it's a fascinating quarterback matchup of, like, again, we talk about Anthony Richardson an awful lot, but he's a really interesting player, obviously. Bo Nix, I think, has had a very slow start, had a rapid ascent, and I think he's kind of having a bit of a slow finish. Broncos rotating running backs in and out. Sean Payton's coaching them up really well this year. Again, I like to dog on Sean Payton. I don't like him, but he's had a really good coaching year. I think so has Shane Steichen for the most part. Obviously, he had his issues mid-season, in my opinion, but I do think this is an interesting matchup. Any strong takes on the Colts as +4, Paul?
Not massively. It was both these teams are off the bye, aren't they? We talked about kind of the teams coming off the bye. I think what they were 7-13. It's been a couple of weeks now, and that's not been.
So it's going to be a push.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be Broncos by 4. But I just think, again, this is one, going back to the Dolphins, like, Colts need to keep something alive. And I just think things aren't going to be decided. It's just be real boring if everything's fucking decided 3 weeks out with 3 full weeks of the regular season to go. And then you just, seeding is what you're playing for. And yeah, Colts do keep close. Broncos are 10-3 ATS. They're the joint best ATS record along with the Eagles. India not bad, 8-5 ATS. I just fancy them to keep it close. I think they might find a way to sneak this one because obviously the Broncos have been riding pretty high. And yeah, I just maybe fancy the Colts to sneak this one and keep their wildcard hopes alive.
Yeah, and I would say with Riley Moss being out, the other cornerback got absolutely shredded against the Browns. It was crazy how much Jerry Jeudy was open.
Am I hearing Adonai Mitchell week? Is that what I'm hearing?
No.
I'm hearing it. Let's go, Joe. We've got Cardinals 6-point favourites over at home against the Patriots. Paul, you've taken the Patriots, me and Joe on the cards. Any strong on this one, or just 6 points is the
Cardinals have been so bad the last few weeks, and that is it. It's not particularly strong thoughts on the Patriots. These teams at the bottom have only got 2 or 3 wins. They're going to find ways to probably win another game, I think, the majority of them. So, we're not going to have like half a dozen 3-win teams, are we? That's just not the way it's going to work. So they're going to find a way to pick up wins. And I think the Cardinals are done. Like, they've been so bad. I think it's Patriots going out west. It's tough. I like the 6, so I think the Patriots can keep this close.
Yeah, I wouldn't be stunned with a push. Again, not one I'll be taking on my betting sheet by any means. I've gone Eagles -5. You two are on Steelers +5, as we've talked about. Bucks going into LA, play the Chargers as 3-point underdogs. Joe, you've gone the Bucks. Me and Paul on the Chargers.
Yeah, I flip-flopped with this one. I think it's just going to be a really tight game, obviously, why I took it as an under. And the 3 points, I think it could be, like, if the Chargers win, it might be a win by 1 or 2, just with, like, the injuries we've mentioned. And, yeah, I think the Bucks are going to keep it close. Yeah, it was similar to what you've said for the other ones, just they had the plus points. So I think this is going to be a 1.2 game at either side. So I think +3 points.
I think we're on for so many pushes this week. I think this has been the week with the most whole numbers.
Yeah,
like not under hook, not 0.5s. There's so many of them when you look at the board. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 16 games that have a hook or 0.5. Is that right? If I don't know, that's right. Yeah. I feel like there's not been that many. I feel there's going to be so many pushes this week.
Certainly see it. I'm on Gino and the boys at home, 2.5-point underdogs against Green Bay. We've talked about the other 2 games, but me and Joe on the Bears +7 at Minnesota, and we are all on the Falcons -4 at the Raiders.
Hammer the Raiders money line.
Desmond Ridder is going the F off. And yeah, that concludes our ATS picks. And just one segment before we get to our guests, we have got our Fantasy Game Day selections. Alrighty, so where are we starting here? We'll go with Paul. You've got Joe Burrow at Tennessee, 7,200, expensive quarterback, but...
But what? There's no but. What do you mean but?
Well, it's expensive, but why is he worth it?
Right. Yeah, he's expensive. It's worth it. Obviously, they've been cooking, haven't they? Burrow and Chase, I guess, together as a great partnership. I think there's just, again, this is mentioned it earlier when I took the Bengals as favourite in my 4-4. I think it's just a chance they just hammer the Titans here and just really put it to them. Burrow's having his best season, isn't he, really? And I can't see why that wouldn't continue. And I know they are guilty of playing down to opposition so far this year, but I feel like that's going to come to an end soon. And there's an opportunity to kind of put up some video game numbers here and really just put it to them. And Burrow and tag him with Chase. I think Chase is really expensive, but I think if you went to Chase captain and Burrow quarterback option, I don't think you'd be going too far wrong this week.
Yeah, and I think we got some stick on Twitter as well for not having Burrow in our All-Pro selections.
Yeah, we did, yeah. I mean, I thought his corner.
Yeah, I just don't think he's been top 2. I think he's been 3, which is great, but, it's
winning is a QB stat, I think, and he hasn't won the big games, so...
Yeah.
He's barely won any games.
Exactly. Any only won the last game because, the Cowboys can't.
Don't know the rules.
Block pump, yeah.
The Muff Gang. Which I'm sure he's done a bunch of goals. Anyway, Joe, you've gone with Aaron Rodgers at Jacksonville, 4,800. Nice budget QB.
This is
I thought I'd go for a budget QB. I was thinking he got 300 yards last week and against the Dolphins, and now he's going to play Jacksonville, where we were. I feel like every week we were picking a QB or a wide receiver against Jacksonville because they can't cover wide receivers. It's definitely the worst defense in the league, or definitely the bottom 2 defenses. So I think he could get another 300 yards. And it's such an Aaron Rodgers thing to do to have a good end of the season. So there's a big narrative in the summer that, a team's going to take him because he ended the year well last year. He's got his Netflix documentary coming out, so he's wanted to play well. So I think he could get another 300-yard game with a couple of touchdowns to Wilson and Devontae Adams. So I just thought with the budget, if you're going big elsewhere, then I think it's going to be a nice little cheap option.
Fair.
And I have gone Jameis Winston, 5,800. Sorry, I had my Excel document up a moment ago. What is Jameis Winston? I think he's QB 13 price-wise on the slate. Jameis's last 4 games, he's been quarterback 6, quarterback 18, quarterback 1, quarterback 12. Of the last 4 weeks, he's been quarterback 4. He's priced at quarterback 13 on this slate alone, which is none of the island games. I think that is wild. I think you can score on the Chiefs. I think they're going to be throwing a lot. Again, if David Njoku plays, I'm going to love it a lot more. But either way, James will throw it to me, you and well, send you, me and you too. If we were the only people out there, I mean, probably put up a catch each. I'm not going to say we're going to go for 100, but he will just sling it, and the points are going to be there, even if he throws a pick or two. I think he's underpriced, and I think it's a good matchup for him, even though it is the Chiefs' defense on paper. But the Chiefs have actually, in the last 6 games, given up the most quarterback 1 performances, level with the Raiders. So I think that is noteworthy and a little surprising. I will continue rambling here. My wide receiver, I've gone pretty budget heavy on my wide receiver running back. I normally try and find the cheaper guys, but I think Tyreek Hill at 6,200 is a kind of cheapo option this week. In the last 6 weeks, the Texans have given up 9 top 24 wide receiver performances. So that's obviously more than 1 a week. Jalen Waddle is nursing a hamstring injury. Tyreek Hill, again, I've bet on him to go over 100 yards. He went over 100 last week, went 83 the week before. I think he's getting in the zone. He's going to finish the season strongly. I think at 6,200, it might not be the highest scoring game, but against a team that's soft on wide receivers, like I said, they've given up 9 wide receivers in just the last 6 weeks. I'm trying to think if the Texans even played every single one of those weeks. I'm not sure they did. Didn't they just have a bye last week?
Texans are off a bye.
Yeah, so in the last 5 weeks they've played, they've given up 9 wide receiver top 24 performances. I think Tyreek Hill could be a top 3 or 4 wide receiver this week without much qualm. So yeah, at 6,200, I certainly don't mind paying it. I did have he's priced at wide receiver 9 on the slate. I think he outperforms that pretty comfortably. Who are we going to go to? We'll go to Paul. You've got the more expensive guy.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton for me. Colts. I feel like they were down in like the bottom 3 or 4. Defense, they're been a little bit better recently. They're off a bye, but recently they're still bottom 3rd defensively. They still give up well over 230 passing yards per game. Cortland Sutton's been on a bit of a run. He is Bo Nix's guy, I think, at this point. And I think kind of the passing offense runs through him. I think he's a couple of weeks out from a game with multiple touchdowns. He's getting 6, 7, 8 targets and 6, 7, 8 catches a game, more targets. He's going to get close to 100 yards again. I just can't see how not against the Colts. And if he tags it with a touchdown, you're 20 plus points, and I think it's well worth the 6,600.
Absolutely. And Joe?
I've gone Zay Flowers. It's probably going to be similar to what you're running back. I just think they're going to absolutely stomp this Giants team, and he's their number 1 wide receiver, so I can see some big players. And at 5,200, I think it's a nice price for a number 1 wide receiver who I think is going to score a lot of points.
Nice. And you're running back we're all going running backs, actually. No tight ends in play this week. Who's your running back, Joe?
Yeah, I've gone for one who's in missed practice today, so it might change. But if he does play, it's Tony Pollard against the Bengals at 6,000. Even last week when they were absolutely atrocious against the Jags, he ran for 102 yards. And if Rico Dowdle can run 131 yards on you, then Tony Pollard, who's a lot better option, can certainly get them yards as well. So if he does play, Tony Pollard 6,000, and even if it doesn't, it might be worth it. The Tennessee, I'm guessing Spears would be his backup, is to be a really cheap option just because his Bengals team can't stop the run. And I think they might lean heavily on it as well. So, yeah, Tony Pollard.
I feel that's like a little bit of unnecessary disrespect to Rico Dowdle. I know I said Deco Rowdle then, but yeah, Rico Dowdle. He has just genuinely been, I think, hampered by the way the Cowboys have ran things. It's more, I think, a view of against the Cowboys' old line and the play call, less him. He's good. The rest of it is the issue.
I think if you put him in Tennessee, though, Tony Pollard would be outperforming him still, to be fair.
Well, yeah, because Tony Pollard is also really good.
Yeah. Just shout out there, Tajay Spears, don't know why I said like an Aussie. It's half price, £3,000. If Pollard doesn't go smash, I think is probably the word for that. I'll go next because I'm passionate about it this week. The big dog, Derrick Henry, I think is must captain. I think is must play this week. He's £8,000. He's the third most expensive player on the slate. He has been a little cold in fantasy this season. In the second half of the season, certainly. But in the last 5 years, Derrick Henry in losses averages 12.3 fantasy points per game. In wins, he averages 22.5 fantasy points per game. He is the big dog. He leads from the front. When things are going well, he goes well. They are 16.5-point favorites this week. They're going to stomp the Giants, even if the Giants do cover. I don't see there's any way where this is a close game. I think this could be a Derrick Henry 3 touchdowns kind of game. I just think he's going to absolutely smash this week. If I can get him in a league that still has trading in, I'm happy to give up plenty to get him in. I think he's going to have a strong end of the season, and I think it starts this week. The Giants are 32nd against running backs in fantasy football this year. They are a soft touch. Dexter Lawrence is out for the season. I don't know if I can say enough about why Derrick Henry is a good player this week. He's priced as it as well. I mean, I'm not going to say I hold my hand up, I went expensive this week, but it's one of the rare occasions where I think it's absolutely worth it. I think Derrick Henry absolutely destroys the Giants.
One thing with that is, obviously the matchup, everything about the matchup says yes, smash, 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 smash. When we've had these big favourites where they're so big, template, whatever, find the games, I might be wrong. It doesn't feel like the stars of those teams have delivered fantasy-wise. And that would just be my one thing. If you could tie up £8,000 in Derrick Henry, I think it's because also you might only get 2.5 quarters out of him potentially as well. And also there's that element, and he's done enough in that. But I just, these situations where these big numbers, we've seen these teams not hammer lesser opposition time and time and time again.
Yeah.
And that's my only worry of it. And I know we're going to be having this discussion on Sunday when you two put your teams in and go put Derrick Henry in.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could be stronger that I think Derrick Henry should be in and should be captain. In every Ravens win, the worst he's performed is running back 15 on the season, which is disappointing if you got him at running back 3 pricing, I will admit. But that's the worst he's been in a Ravens win this year. When he goes, they go. I don't think he's coming out after 2.5 quarters. I think he's going to dominate. Obviously, that's why I'm picking him as an 8,000 third highest player on the slate. So, yeah. Paul finishes off. Your running back of the week is?
I'm just going to go Pacheco for the Chiefs. And I know, obviously, the Chiefs offensively have been a struggle. I feel like, obviously, he's been back. Was he back last week or was it the week before?
2 weeks ago, technically, but really last week.
But I think they can just kind of like ramp up his workload a little bit. And while the Browns tough, obviously defensive front, I think it's an opportunity. They'll just kind of ramp him up a little bit, I think. And I think it's an opportunity for him to go off like, I think the Chiefs, again, we talked about -4. I think the Chiefs might beat the Browns by a little bit here. And I think they'll try and lean on the run a little bit because not necessarily been going great through the air.
Can see it. Grant, well, that wraps up our Fantasy Game Day picks. Obviously, go Fantasy Game Day, download the app, UK only. Obviously, gamble responsibly. Don't gamble more than you can afford. But a cheeky way to get a free game, use our promo code COVER, all capitals. And when you deposit and play your first game, you will get a free second entry to use either the same day or the following week. We obviously recommend it very highly. We've been partnered with the guys 2 seasons now. So we love them. They've just introduced another new game for Sunday and Monday with a bigger salary cap. We generally stick to the Sunday main slate, the classic, but there is something for everybody. The ballers for the individual slates, pick a captain, etc. So, yeah, something for everybody. Check it out. Price points for everybody now as well. They're really taking off this year with DraftKings fucking over the UK fan base, truthfully. So, get out there, support Fantasy Game Day. We love them. And, yeah, make sure you use our promo code COVER once again for when you have your pick in. Paul's going to go and have a chat with Phil. That's going to finish us off. But, yeah, otherwise, me and Joel say toodaloo. May all your bets cash for this week. We expect all ours to. So, yeah, thanks again. And hi to Phil.
Finishing off our episode this week, we've got our guest picker segment. We're going to have another one of our friends of the show picking the fourfold challenge to see if we can break the guest duck for the season and what's been a very tricky fourfold challenge season in 2024. We're joined by a relatively new friend to the show. We've got Philip Marsh joining us. This is the gentleman who started the HuddleUK website, getting almost 32, I think now, people from across the UK, NFL fans writing about their teams. It's a fantastic site, a fantastic space, lots of talented people, and Philip's the man who created it. Phil, first of all, welcome to Good Teams When Great Teams Cover. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you very well. I know you are one of those writers, of course, so don't forget to mention yourself in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been the last month or so. It's been great. Something that I've not done before, so it's been great to kind of tackle it. But being able to kind of read all the other articles from all the other guys writing as well, guys and girls writing, has been great so far. So yeah, I suppose that should be our starting point. I suppose give us a bit of a background of kind of your background and what led you to create the HuddleUK.
Yeah, it was sort of this year. I mean, I've been an NFL fan for about a decade now, and this year I work in sports media, so I work as a freelancer. I do a lot of work with BBC Sport and with DAZN and other places, wherever the freelance world takes me. And I just found this year being in London, I'd been a few times to the London games, and I was there for the first time with work for the BBC this year. We were hoping from a Welsh perspective that Louis Rees-Zammit would make an appearance for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Unfortunately, that didn't transpire to be the case, but I just really found the media side of things was a really nice community. And then going out and speaking to fans, not just the UK-based fans, but those who had travelled over, it was just a bit different. I love football, I love the rugby, and ice hockey is one of the other things I love over here as well. We've got a great team in Cardiff. But it just felt a bit different, and I wanted to give people an opportunity to express themselves. A lot of the people who write for Huddle are people who are either aspiring writers. Some of them, we've got a couple of gents who are in their 60s who are retired and just are doing it as a hobby. And so it's a really nice mix of people doing it. And they've all got, like yourself, got your own little communities online. And the idea was just to bring it together. It's not a money-making scheme. It's an online community of fans. Like down the line, I've got plans to hopefully have big meetups with everyone and fantasy leagues and all the rest of it. And it's only been going, I think, about 6 weeks now, a month and a half, 2 months. But it's, the uptake has been great and the response has been really good online.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's been fantastic to be a part of so far. And like I say, I already know a couple of the people through kind of relationships we've been managed to build that have then joined you as writers as well. So that's kind of cool seeing it all come together as well. Yes, I still want to finish off my Zach Martin story for this week. So that will be done after we've finished recording. But yeah, it's a great site, and like I say, lots of fantastic and very talented people as well. So yeah, make sure you go at HuddleUK.com and the social handles at Join the Huddle. I think to join the Huddle UK. Sorry, across Twitter. There's an Instagram account as well, but just go join them up. And Phil's always tweeting out the new stories with the link. So yeah, be great to have your support in help building the site. For those who are watching on our YouTube channel, you will see that Phil has got on the classic Chargers powder blue jersey. How did you get the affliction of becoming an LA Chargers fan, Phil?
It was there's a shout out to, I guess, a good friend of mine, Bo. We were in uni together in first year, and we were walking through the city centre of Cardiff, and I think he just recently in the sort of that year, maybe the year previous, been introduced to a fantasy league. I think that's how a lot of UK fans are originally brought into the sport. And as a big football fan myself, a bit of a stats nerd, I love the nitty gritty of things. He said to me one day over a pint in town, he was like, we need to get you into it. We need to find you a team. And he started off, I think it was Vine. I'm showing my age a bit here. By is sort of one of those like spinning all the teams, and whichever one you click on is yours. And I think my first team I stuck on was the Panthers, and I found a bit of info. Bo told me about them, and I was like, that doesn't feel like the team for me. They were quite good at that time. It was Cam Newton, and they were one of the better teams. And I like being the plucky underdog fan. And he then asked me where I'd been in America. And when I was about 3 or 4, my family won a newspaper competition to go to San Diego. At the time, of course, the Chargers was playing in San Diego, and the quarterback was called Philip. So it just it worked that Philip Rivers. So that was my first jersey I bought then that year. a Philip Rivers San Diego Chargers jersey, and I've followed it since there.
Nice, yeah. It's always great when people kind of have these links as well to the teams as well, because everyone's story is different. I see a lot of people through fantasy. Madden's quite a popular one as well, the video game, of course. But yeah, it's a great story. And to be fair, so the Chargers have had mixed fortunes in the last 10, 15 years. But one thing that certainly stayed consistent is how beautiful that powder blue jersey is. It's one of my favourites in the league for sure. I've got an old LaDainian Thompson one. Powder blue, and it's fantastic. So yeah, much love for that. And I was a big fan of the Chargers as well in terms of I like those Phil Rivers teams, Vince Jackson. Yeah, just great teams. Always very entertaining teams as well, I thought.
Yeah, entertaining if not very successful. They've been, with Philip Rivers and now with Justin Herbert, there've been some really good years. They just seem to always, I think the phrase on social media is to charger it. The playoff game against the Jacksonville Jaguars is the most recent one of those that is really clearly comes to mind. 28 points up or something at halftime and still managing to lose that with what was a good team on paper. I don't think Justin Herbert has won a playoff game yet. So we've got fingers crossed in the powder blue community that will end this year.
Yeah, and I think there's a strong possibility of it. And I suppose let's focus on this season because I suppose coming off the back of last season, it was just a bit of a mess, wasn't it? The Brandon Staley era, it just felt like the players had given up. There was a particular Thursday night beating at the hands of the Raiders by 50-odd points that took place. Jim Harbaugh came in off the back of winning a national title in college with Michigan, and it is flipped around so quickly. What were your expectations when Jim Harbaugh came in of being able to kind of turn things around?
It was obviously really exciting. I think most of the NFL, there was rumors for years that he was going to come and take over. And as someone who got into the sport about 10 years ago, at first I was, who is this guy? It was a name I knew of, but the esteem and the reputation that came with him, the more I researched, the more I realized, okay, this is quite serious. Then I was watching college football when he won it with Michigan, as you say, the national championships, and it started to tick along. There was a moment on the Pat McAfee show, I think, where someone came on and heard a rumor that he said Jim Harbaugh's favorite NFL quarterback was Justin Herbert. And then the cogs just started turning. So, yeah, as you mentioned, there was that game against the Raiders last year, and it all went a bit sour. It all turned a bit unpleasant. This year couldn't have been further from that. Whether they win a playoff game, it's really early stages of this new era with Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. And the offense hasn't been great with Roman. There's so many ex-Ravens players in there. It just feels like we're the Ravens of the West Coast at the moment. But it's worked well. They're winning games that going back a few years they wouldn't have won, which is really nice to see. I'm so used to staying up here until 4 or 5 in the morning watching primetime games and going to bed at 4:30, having seen a last-minute kick go against us, which what happened on Monday night. We won't go too much into that one. But yeah, it's been much more positive. And what you see, the Chargers are great on social media. They don't win many things, but social media and the kits are two things that they're very good for. And the videos after the game in the locker room after the wins, I don't like the word vibes, but the vibes and the ethos in there just seems it's a completely different world to what it was last year. And it seems more positive and happier than pretty much any other locker room video you see with who's got it better than us. And, I get that that's a bit cheesy, but they're buying into it. And Justin Herbert is smiling now and playing with a freedom that I think a lot of people didn't expect. I thought it would just be a run trench ball, just run it down opponents' throats every single game. And it was the case for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I think Harbaugh just saw Herbert and went, look, we got to let this guy throw the ball a bit more. And it's been great ever since.
Yeah, I think you're right. First few games, I thought that would be like that because that's kind of how they did it in Michigan, especially the last few years. They had a competent quarterback in college in JJ McCarthy, who sadly not made his rookie season with the Vikings, but just didn't really let him throw the ball. And yet the Chargers started off that way. But yeah, they've opened things up. I mean, Herbert, they're just playing the kind of ball that just doesn't get you beat in terms of these Chargers won't beat themselves before they would. These Chargers, they don't turn the ball over. I think Herbert's thrown 1 interception all season. So they very rarely fumble it. They just make you beat them, and they will prey on your mistakes as well. If you make a mistake, this Chargers team will take advantage. Did you foresee the turnaround happening so quick? Because it's just a complete shift from everything we know about the Chargers, which may be unfair over the years, but, we call them soft. As you said, the Charger away, which I suppose we compare it in the UK maybe to Spurs as in football, in Premier League terms or soccer terms. It's so hard to shed that, but he's done that in 10 games, 12 games.
Yeah, as I said, the turnarounds come quicker, or I guess the level of turnaround has been the most impressive thing. I don't know, personally, I thought that this would be a sort of 500 season, but, recovering better than it was last year for sure. But with so many, off-season free agent sign-ins and not super high, Joe Alt was great and has been very good as a rookie, but a lot more is needed in that Charger team. It's still far from a team that you look at week in, week out and go, that's a Super Bowl team. It's a team that could potentially win a game, maybe 2 games in the playoffs. Even the likes of the Ravens or the Chiefs, some of the best teams in the AFC, they've pushed them really close. And on Monday night, again, not to bring it up, but that could have been very different on another day. And losing by 2 points at Arrowhead is nothing to be ashamed of against the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. So, yeah, I think the turnaround has exceeded expectations this year. It's hard when you start increasing hopes and expectations, because now I think next year they really are going to have to go above and beyond again, and doing that is going to be the challenge. I don't think anyone would be too disappointed if they make the playoffs this year and lose to a good, a Ravens team, a good Chiefs team in the playoffs. I don't think anyone would be upset with that season as Jim Harbaugh's first. But then next year, that's when the pressure will really kick in, because they will need to win a playoff game if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, obviously, don't really allude to it too much, obviously, the Chiefs secure the division on Sunday night, but they've played the Chiefs close twice. They played them close earlier in the season as well. I think it was it might have been week 4. So while that team was still taking shape, would you be confident that you could kind of upset the Chiefs in the playoffs if you came across them, given you've played them close twice?
Confident isn't the word I'd use. The Chiefs have got this amazing ability this year to win games that they seemingly shouldn't. I know the Chiefs writer for our site Huddle, she regularly just sort of starts stories with, I don't know how we've done it again. But they do, and there's a point where luck becomes, you can't just discount it anymore. If a team is getting lucky week in, week out, it isn't luck. There's skill there, there's effort, there's practice, and particularly the blocked field goal for the Broncos game. I was watching that game in town, and nothing other than the fact I'm a Chargers fan. I don't have anything against the Chiefs, but you always want to see the underdog win those sort of games. But they clearly focused on one player in that line on special teams and put 3 players on him to run him down. That's not luck. That's planned. That's meticulous planning and coaching. The doink off the post is frustrating on Sunday night. And as a Chargers fan, if you put the biased hat on, there was 2 plays before where it looked like 3 different pass rushers were being held on the same play when Mahomes scrambles for a first down, and you just go. But that's football. If referees were flagging for every minor hold, the game would never flow properly. So, to answer your question, would I be confident? No, but I wouldn't go into it with any sense of trepidation. You'd feel like, I don't think there's any team that will blow out the Chargers right now with the way the defense is playing. I think they would be held to 1-score games, 8-9 points at a max if they really turn it on.
Yeah, I think you're right. We were just talking earlier. The Chargers don't make mistakes; they prey on your mistakes. Like I think they would keep it close. It's also just very hard to beat the same team 3 times in a season. So, kind of, if you come across the Chiefs again, who knows? Those kind of little things that it could be an upset. But they've got to get there first. I think they're pretty confident here at 8-5 after heading into week 15 with the way that the AFC wildcard race is shaping up. 4 games to go. Key one this week, the Chargers host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Chargers are 3-point favourites in this one. Buccaneers also chasing getting in the playoffs, likely through winning the NFC South. How do you fancy this matchup against the Buccaneers?
I think a lot comes down to Justin Herbert's health this week. He obviously took a few shots at Arrowhead on the weekend, and he's so integral to. I know every team's quarterback is important. That sort of goes without saying. And I just remember seeing a graphic, and I'm not going to be able to remember quoting it who it is now, but there was a graphic that the season started. Oh no, it was last year. It was after the Raiders game, that one where it was some 63-21, whatever it was. And they were showing the difference in caliber between a starting quarterback and the backup of teams across the NFL. And the Chargers golf was the worst in the National Football League. Eastern Stick, I could never play that position. So this isn't me sitting on a high horse. But Taylor Heineke and Eastern Stick aren't starting quarterbacks by any caliber. They can fill in for a play here if they need to, as they did on Sunday night. But they're not going to win you games. So Justin Herbert is so crucial. And Tampa Bay, they've had their injuries. They've had a really tough season. They're still in it. I think they are top of the NFC South by a game now because the Falcons lost on the weekend. So they'll be good. They've got Mike Evans back. Been really impressed by Bucky Irving as a rookie. I don't think anyone had him as going to be the number one running back of this year's draft class. And obviously gutting to what happened to Jonathan Brooks on the weekend. But Bucky Irving's been great in that three-headed running game in Tampa. And the Chargers defense, you say they've been preying on mistakes, and they'll need to do that this weekend. It's, I think, the late window, one of the 9 o'clock games on Sunday. It's was it 3-point favorites the Chargers are?
Yeah, 3-point favorites as we stand. So yeah, just
about
a tight
right.
game.
Yeah, that sounds about right. If the Chargers are fully fit, if Lad McConkey's back, I think it's a game that the Chargers will edge. But edge is the word there. It's not going to be a particularly one-sided game either way, I don't see.
Yeah, Lad McConkey was a big miss last week, although kind of a few people did step up in his absence. He's been such I find it a very different player, maybe not particular Chargers style play. He feels to me like an old school Patriots wide receiver, very much fits that Edelman or Welker kind of mold. I mean, how impressed have you been with Lad McConkey? I think he's exceeded the expectations in what he's delivered so far.
Oh, definitely so. I think the second pick of the second round, he's been great. There's just an ability to find space. Again, as a UK watcher, someone who's never read a playbook through, I'm not claiming to be any sort of expert at the game. I know what I see, and what I see is lads always in space. And it sounds so easy to run away from defenders, but it isn't. So it's been so impressive to see. He did the things that were good about him coming out of college was his hands. He very rarely dropped balls, and his ability to find space, his route running has been great. And he has shown that. We've needed it. God, we've needed it. Like Josh Palmer is a really good sort of second choice or third choice wide receiver. And Quentin Johnson, you can flip a coin this season for which version of him is going to turn up. It's a bit like that old, bringing it back to sort of British sports, France in the Six Nations of years gone past. It was which France is going to turn up. And it's very much that with Quentin Johnson, who had a brilliant game on Sunday at Arrowhead, made 2 or 3 superb catches, and then the week before couldn't catch a ball to save his life. So I think that's what the Chargers are missing. As good as Lad McConkey has been, if they get a really stud wide receiver one in there, there's been loads of links to the likes of T. Higgins. You stick that in that offense as well, and suddenly it's very scary.
Yeah, it feels like I say that you mentioned earlier, there's still holes in the roster and opportunity to kind of obviously fix some of those in the off season. But yeah, kind of the foundations there. I think that's what Harbaugh does, builds those foundations. The O-line, D-line. Joe Alt, you mentioned O-line's a little bit struggled the last couple of weeks. Gave up 5 sacks against the Falcons. I think another few against the Chiefs. Is that a major worry, or do you think that's something they can fix heading into this final stretch of the season?
I don't major concern. No, if we were a team that was really chasing a Super Bowl this year, then yes, I think that's where the Chiefs are at right now, where the middle of their offensive line is great, but out on the edges, it's been a real concern for them. The Chargers, the likes of Tuli Tuipulotu, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they had a field day on Sunday night, and for the Chargers, it's kind of the opposite. Joe Alt and Salia out on the edges have been pretty good. They've not been perfect. No one is at that position, but they've been very, very good. It's more inside where they've struggled. So it is a concern. It's something that I have no doubt that Jim Harbaugh will address in the draft next year. That's his style when they pick Joe Alt this year. He said, we don't see him as an O-lineman. We see him as a weapon. They see him like they do with Trent Williams in San Francisco. They see these massive dudes as part of the offense, and one of the weapons. Who needs a Malik Neighbors is kind of their mantra in the draft. So they will be addressed. It is a obvious hole. It's a concern, but give another year, as you say, the foundations are in place, and that's what's important in this first year.
So, I mean, and how I say with 4 games to go, how far do you think they can go? So what's the realistic ceiling, do you think, then for the Chargers for the rest of the year?
The ceiling, I say the ceiling is probably the AFC Championship game. That has a lot of things have to fall in place for that, though. That I don't see them making a Super Bowl this year. There's too many good teams in the AFC, but there's a couple of teams that if they met them in the playoffs, the Texans particularly, I think are a beatable team. They're still a very good team, and they won't be easy to beat. But that's the team. I think if the Chargers end up being against the Texans in that first round, in the wild card rounds, again, would I fancy the Chargers to win? Maybe not, but it's the game that they could target. And then, hey, when you get to the divisional rounds, you're only one win. The Chargers aren't going to get beaten heavily by anyone. You need one fumble here, a missed, muff punt there, and we saw what happened with the Cowboys last year. Sorry to bring that one up, but against the Packers. I think I don't know what point favorites the Cowboys would have been in that game, but sometimes teams just turn up on their day when it gets to the playoffs, and so it could happen. It could happen. Well, am I expecting that to happen? No. I think the Chargers' odds of reaching the postseason is 98% or something silly right now. So we are gearing up for that. We're ready for that. Whether it goes any further than that, that's the floor now. Is that wild card round? I think the ceiling would be to win 2 games.
Yeah, I think, like I said, at this point, they'd need 2 of the last 4 regular season games to get in the playoffs. And given they've got the Buccaneers, they've got the Broncos again, which could be a real good game given how the Broncos are going, but they've got the Patriots and the Raiders to finish off. So you'd think there's at least 2 wins there, and they'll get a minimum 10-7, so they'll be in. I'd find the Texans is the one I was going to say. If they went to Houston, so they'd have to, I guess, get a better record than the Ravens or Steelers, whoever doesn't end up winning that division, to jump to the 5th seed. And then you get the Texans, but I'd love them against the Texans. I also think if they got another crack at Baltimore, I think if they got the Ravens again, the Chargers could beat the Ravens. But that takes a lot for the Ravens to overhaul the Steelers. Yeah, the hardball again. Yeah, we saw it a couple of weeks ago on Monday Night Football. But I just fancy him because we're still not beat him yet, has he? Still not beat his brother. And
no, he hasn't. No.
It is going to happen.
3-0 now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to happen. I just think if the Chargers got another crack at the Ravens, I kind of think I'd fancy that as well. But that's to come. And speaking of what's to come, we've got your 4-fold challenge picks. Phil, you're going to give this a go. So I double checked last because I think I misquoted. I might have give out a bit of a funny stat the last week. So say no guest has ever done it. They did. It was week 10 last year that a guest did it. So it's been a full season and more since a guest hit a 4-fold, and it's not easy to do. At the end, it's a 12-1 bet. So it's not an easy one to do. We've hit it 3 times this year. I've hit it twice, and co-host Joe's hit it once as well. It's not easy to do, but we'll start off with your favourite. Are you going to break tradition and pick a team that isn't yours as your favourite, or are you going to be picking the Chargers as your favourite this week?
I'm not going to be picking the Chargers just because of Justin Herbert's uncertainty. I think that would be a foolish pick as someone who likes a bet myself. I think putting the Chargers on at this stage when he's questionable to play would be very silly. So I was looking at the games. I was going to say the Ravens, but that seems too boring, really. I think they're 15-point favorites. So I'll be slightly less boring, and I'll say the Commanders. I think what Jaden Daniels has done this season has been phenomenal. Top 5 completion percentage, even though his average depth of throw is top 10, and the Saints are the 5th worst passing defense in the league. So I don't know what they were, 7-point favorites, maybe 7.5. That seems like well, I don't want to say nailed on because that's when you'll start jinxing.
Nothing ever is, yeah. Nothing.
When it comes to bets, as you say, no one's done this since week 10 of last year. So I won't say nailed on, but I would be quite confident of that one.
Yeah, Commanders minus 7.5. I like that one. Again, the Commanders, this is one of them. Again, similar position to the Chargers. Commanders kind of need 2 wins. And if you look at their schedule, this would be one of those ones that you feel kind of they have to have. They've got to play the Eagles. And I can't remember. They've got another very difficult game in the last 4. I want to say it might be the Bills. Although, no, it doesn't feel right. But they've got, Eagles, oh, they've got Eagles, Falcons, maybe, so we'll see. But they've got, this is one of the two games I think they need to just hold off those NFC West teams in like the Niners and the Rams to get that 7th seed in the NFC. But I like that. Good shout. And Commanders back with a big win in week 13, just off the bye. We'll see how they do. But yeah, 7.5 point favourites. Who's the underdog? Who's your favourite underdog this week then? Who do you like?
I think of all of my picks, this is the riskiest one. I'm going to go the Pittsburgh Steelers, which feels risky because I know the Eagles have won 9 games in a row. So I don't love saying that I think the Eagles are going to lose. For me, it's down to how good Pittsburgh are at stopping the run and how inept the Eagles have been at throwing the ball in the last few weeks. There was a hilarious montage of Eagles fans after the game on this weekend where they were, I'm not sure if you've seen it going around social media, of them complaining about Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. And it's nowhere near as drastic as they're making it sound. It's nowhere near that bad, but it hasn't been great.
Eagles fans and Philadelphia sports fans in general just have a way of just making drama out of absolutely nothing. Yeah, they've won 9 in a row. Yeah, they didn't play well against the Panthers, but they got the job done.
They did.
Yeah,
and the Panthers aren't the Panthers they were at the start of this year. They ran the Chiefs close 2 weeks before that. So Bryce Young has taken a massive step forward. It's amazing after that first year of everyone looking at CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, and if you were a dynasty manager on fantasy or just an NFL team and you're given the option of Stroud or Bryce Young, it would have been the biggest no-brainer in NFL history. And teams might still pick Stroud, but they'd really have to think about it now after the last 5 weeks. And Bryce Young's looked great.
Yeah. Crazy that in that game, the Panthers are favourites against the Dallas Cowboys this week.
Well, I put them as my underdog, actually. When I looked through, I put the Panthers as my underdog, and then I realised they were favourites, so I had to get rid of them.
Yeah, 2.5 point favourites. I'm really not sure how I feel about that being a Dallas Cowboys fan, but hey. I guess that streak for the Panthers being underdogs had to end at some point. We'll go with your under next, Phil, if that's okay. Where are you like? Oh, no, just a quick one on your Steelers, because that's the point. Love the Steelers pick. We're huge. Always bet the Steelers as an underdog. Mike Tomlin as an underdog. His record is insane. This is the end of the show, so you'll have heard us bleating on about it earlier in the show when one of us has picked it as one of our fourfold underdogs. Yeah, the record is insane, especially 5 points as well. It's a lot of points. I feel like that might be a tight game. I think the Eagles could make that 10 in a row, but that could easily be a field goal game. So love the Steelers with the 5 points. I'll certainly be betting it. I'm sure Byron and Joe will be taking a punt on it as well. So yeah, all that's worried if we're all on it. That means
definitely not coming in then.
Yeah. That's usually how it works anyway. But yeah, Mike Tomlin's an underdog, supersedes all. Where's your under then this week, Phil? What are you liking as a pick for the under?
The under is strangely one of the better, or one of the best offensives in football. But the Bengals-Titans game feels like quite a high over-under at 47 just because it's the Titans. The Bengals have been involved in so many high-scoring games, but that's because they're in shootout games. It's because the defense isn't great and they're having to throw the ball. They're having to go to chase and you're getting 60-point games. But when they've played teams that aren't as great, with no disrespect to the Titans, it was 26 points against the Patriots, 24 points against the Giants, 35, which is, not much against the Browns. When they're playing the teams that aren't putting them to the test, the over-unders have been significantly under what the mark has been. The Titans did look better this week. I know they lost to the Jags, but Tony Pollard had a great game, and Nick Westbrook-Akini, I don't think he scored this week. I think it's 8 in 9 weeks now for him. But there's certainly some players who can, cause what is a bad Bengals defense an issue. But if they don't get going early on Titans and the Bengals build up a couple touchdown lead, I don't think it ever reaches that mark.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a very high number. It was a similar story on Monday. The Bengals played the Cowboys, and again, kind of Cowboys who've been struggling offensively all year didn't push the Bengals to a kind of that shootout game because I think it was a 49.5 number and ended up just short. But I see something similar. But I just agree. The Titans just make so many mistakes. Will Levis, he just peaks and troughs, but he just makes back-breaking mistakes, red zone turnovers that. Yeah, just negate points. So, I like that shout for the under 47 Bengals Titans. And then where's your over? Where's the fun going to be this week, Phil?
I'm going to go really fun, and I'm going to go the over is in the highest over-under game of the week, and I'm going to say it's in the Bills-Lions game. Look, I could be wrong. It could be one of those really nitty games where it's really close, but I just think both the offenses are brilliant and both the defenses they're not bad, but they're not perfect. The Bills, I was looking it up, have scored 30 points in 6 straight games now. The Lions have got 30 points in 6 of their last 10, and 4 of those were 40-plus points. The 54 seems, on the flip side, seems low for that game. If the Bills put up 25 points, which isn't crazy on that offense, then the Lions only need to get 30 themselves, which they've been doing on a regular basis. So, yeah, the mark is high. I think I'm maybe picking this as my over because it's the game I really want to watch. And I hope it is a bit like the game we had on Sunday night with the Rams game. That's great. Another one of those would be brilliant to watch.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's 54 and a half. It's the highest over-under of the season by far at this point. I always get a bit weary when the number's that high, but yeah, I just can't see anything else. Like the Lions are just so struggling for bodies on defense as well. They've got so many injuries defensively. So the only thing they can really do is attack. So, and the Bills, we saw them go toe to toe with the Rams and just keep fighting back, even when they were in a bit of a hole last week. So yeah, just a great matchup, and I think this could be up there. That game, Packers Lions last week was a real good game. I think this could be another one of those game of the season contenders, and it'd be one I'd absolutely love to see again in February.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that'd be a great game.
Yeah, great Super Bowl matchup. So, yeah, cracking selection there. I think you've got a great chance with your fourfold there, Phil. So it was the Commanders, -7.5 against the Saints. The Steelers as 5-point underdogs against the Eagles. Under 47 in Bengals, Titans, and over. I think it's 54.5, Bills, Lions. So, yeah, I think you've got a good shot with that one to break this duck that the guests have been on.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm sure you say every week that you like the 4 picks that the guests have picked. So.
We tell if they're bad, if especially if I'm against them, I'll tell them that the picks are. Although usually I'm on the wrong end of it. So,
well, hopefully we can all be right this week.
Yeah, excellent. It'd be great to cash one in. I see it's not easy to cash a 12-1 bet, 4 selections like that. So that's why it's the challenge. And best of luck with it, Phil. So I know you're in a rush. You're off to the Cardiff City game later on, but. Just give us one last reminder where we can follow and where we can get all the great content at HuddleUK.
Yeah, it's www.huddleuk.com is the website. We're somewhere we're balancing between 28 and 32 writers at the moment, as some people have decided that life is just way too crazy at this time of year, which is absolutely fine. And then some new people join in, so really exciting there. As you touched on at the start, the level of the standard of writing is phenomenal across the board on the website, and some young people learning, some older heads who've got loads of experience of watching the game. It's a real nice mix. So whoever you support, there's content on there. On socials, it's @JoinTheHuddle on X. Now I keep going to say Twitter, on X, and on Instagram. The Instagram, if you ever look at it, there is nothing on there currently, but there will be a Huddle podcast coming at some point in the new year. So that will then get filled with loads of content on that. So get in there. We're on Blue Sky and Facebook and all the rest of those things. If you just search HuddleUK, you'll find us.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on, Phil. Appreciate you. And hopefully we'll have you back on in the during the playoffs, as if the Chargers can make a bit of a run. So it'd be great to have you back in the postseason. And that's a wrap for our Week 15 preview episode. So yeah, make sure you just go give us a follow. Good teams and great teams cover over on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, X. Yeah, I do it. Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky as well, @GTW_GTC. Make sure you follow HuddleUK as well. And we'll be back on Monday with our Week 15 review.